on the dot.
He was waiting outside going, no, they can't start early.
Planning board meeting Thursday, November 13th. Can we stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have an extensive agenda today. I'm going to try to get through things as expeditiously as possible. Board minutes. Does anyone have comments on the minutes? I have a question. How are you generating them? These were the most extensive minutes I've ever seen.
Same way as I always do, but I get a transcript from a website and then I just...
Sure. I mean, nope. It's great. I mean, it's almost word for word, it seems like.
AI do it?
I would, based on the minutes, I would notify the planning board that we will now have a planning board email address, which is up and running shortly.
Yes,
It
it's
said
the 15th, so
which is Saturday.
I'll send out a news announcement on Monday.
It's not individuals, but people can get communication to us through the planning staff from that. The other thing I'd like to ask the board is, do we really need to approve, the board at meetings approve the bills? We don't need to address it today, but I'm just planting it in your head that I would be more than happy. I feel like if there were some bill problem, Maren would bring it to us. I don't see why we have to pass around bills at every.
Yeah, I had suggested that because that's what we did with the school committee is we just designated that the chair could sign the warrant, the bill for the bills. And then if they identified something that should be brought to the attention of everybody, they were available to all members.
Used to do it.
Okay, so let's, Maren, to see what we need to do to go back to that, or we just go back to it.
Well, it would just be a board vote to designate one person, the chair or their designee, or your designee.
Whoever wants to be designated. Is there any? Does anyone want to do this? Okay, the chair is fine. Can I have a vote? Do I have to do roll call, or can I just do all in favor?
Yeah.
Or everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so that's where we're going to handle bills. Cooper, on D, on the second page, it says public input. We heard from Rob Brown's, and then subsequently it came out as bounce. so let's, he deserves consideration. He's, before I think everyone sat down, we talked to Henry, who says the new date for the sewer is the 15th of December, or thereabouts. I mean, but not November like it had been. Okay. And, okay. Anyone else have comments on the minutes? Can I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. Second item is bills. Are there bills?
There are bills.
I'll just sign them. Don't
Awesome.
pass them around.
Thank you.
Did people have a chance to look at the fiscal year 27 budget documents? And if so, did they have any comments? I would recommend that you look at what Maren puts together as her sort of annual report, which talks about accomplishments, what we're working on, and this and that and the other thing. And budget in the next year or two is level, as I understand it. But then there are some capital items in the years after that for, could you explain what you're thinking about?
Yep, so the budget request, the request we got from the treasurer's office, from the finance director's office, was to prepare a level service budget. So that's what we did. And then the capital, we've had in the 10-year capital plan, updating the master plan in a few years. So what I've done is broken that cost over 3 years, and so that would be 3 years of requests to town meeting for budgeting for that.
And the earmark?
Yes, there's, let's see, in the state current fiscal year budget, there was a legislative earmark for Littleton to update our Littleton Common Revitalization Roadmap. Those funds have been held up, and we think that they're going to be released, but we don't know the timing yet. But we would hope to have UMass Donahue Center on board again to update the market analysis portion of that. And then we'd add the public outreach process, working with property and business owners.
Okay, so this is basically an economic development effort. Yeah, okay. We heard from Henry the Northern Bank is waiting for the sewer. King Street Commons, we're having a
Mr. Chair, is this still part of the budget? Because I do have questions.
oh, sure, yeah.
So under document number 2, it identified that there are no planning board fees, even though for the 2027 budget and other years, 25, 26, each had. So I assume that planning board fees are income to the planning board. Is that correct?
To the
Or how does
general fund.
That's income to the general fund. That number has been recommended by, well, no, the 16,000 that was in the prior year's budget was just a number that finance department guesstimated. They have not done a guesstimate yet for this upcoming fiscal year.
So there will be a number in there, though?
Yeah.
And those are fees generated through applications and whatnot?
Through applications, period.
Okay.
Well, we don't have authority to spend it.
Correct. It doesn't become part of the planning budget. It goes to the general fund.
Okay. I was just curious why there wasn't a figure in there where there had been in previous years. Also, excuse me, also on that one is $25,000 for professional services.
Yep, so that matches the amount that town meeting appropriated for the current fiscal year. So have it identified for either matching for local match for grants that require local matches, or professional services for consultants. In the fall, when the Community One-Stop grants were announced, it became apparent that there were no grants awarded that required a local match. So we don't need to use that for local match this year unless we're looking at another grant round later in the season. But what that does is that does free it up for the form-based code training and the traffic peer review of the FEIR.
So, you were planning let's talk about the training for town
Yep.
staff.
So tomorrow morning, UTL will be giving town staff training on form-based code. They're using an example structure proposed, well, not proposed, but
They were doing a
theoretical,
case
the case
study.
study
Yeah.
of one of the structures for King Street Common. They'll be walking us through that. And then I hope that we can include the next step to that, and it's just when we get the site plan for King Street Common, have a workshop for staff and any board members who are interested on how to work through the four-base code information on those, the first few buildings.
Now, if we didn't have this budget line item, how would we go about funding this?
Always have the option of doing a request emergency fund transfer from Finance Department, or Finance Committee, excuse me.
So thank you for that information. Given that Jeff said that we have a new email address, is that something that has to be in our budget, or it comes from somebody else's budget?
That's all covered by the IT department budget.
And then one more question. So under document number 5, it talks about the hazard mitigation plan. It says FEMA has approved Littleton's HMP, and we are waiting for final reimbursement of the cost of this update. Is that something that should be put in the financials if we're getting reimbursed? Or did it come from a different bucket, if you will?
The easy answer is it comes from a different bucket.
So it didn't come out of our bucket?
It didn't come out
And it won't
of-
come back into our bucket?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's reimbursable to the town, not to the planning department.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So I do want to, on the record, it seemed like we got pretty quick movement on this email issue. I mean, pretty soon after it came up, we, it wasn't exactly what we had in mind, but it was something. We remember the charter committee, and we talked about term length and term limits, and if I was to, Betsy Bowling did contact me and said that they probably will recommend a 3-year term, going to a 3-year term. I think the complicating thing is how we transition to that, but she doesn't think that this will come before town meeting for like a year, not this coming town meeting, but the one after that. So we have time to think about it. And then in the meantime, I think we were lukewarm on term limits, but we can revisit that later. Planning board schedule, we're toying with the idea of, since we have the 15th is a big meeting about King Street Common, and that was added to our schedule. We have the 4th scheduled meeting, and it may be the case that we don't need it, depending on what we have to continue today. So I'm just putting it out there.
Do I have the dates wrong? But I thought that was the one we had it was doing joint with ZBA on ADU.
That's
this evening.
Misunderstood the dates.
Yeah. I personally, if we don't have to have a meeting, I think that would be fine.
And so our request on if there are any meeting dates that we have penciled in, let us know if you're going to be absent, so we can work around.
Now, under King Street Commons, I would like to acknowledge Anna has wants to bring it to our attention that the comment period for the FEIR ends next week.
Yes.
And so, Anna, I'll just leave it to you to
Sure.
state
So
your concern.
thank you. When the DEER was submitted, we as a board submitted a comment related to the hotel height being 5 stories, and they went ahead and changed that, and now they're planning on 4 stories. However, based off of the bylaw that we have, 173-233H, the hotel is not considered a residential use building containing a mixed use, which if it was, then that would be a maximum height of 4 stories or 50 feet. A hotel, I believe, is considered a commercial use building which has a maximum height of 2.5 stories or 35 feet. So I'd like to bring this to the board's attention again, that if Lupoli Company is planning a 4-story hotel, as identified in the FEAR, the final environmental impact report, then that doesn't follow the bylaw.
I'm of two minds about this. Before, we did hammer out a planning board letter to FIPA. Any one of us has the opportunity to issue feedback. The other thing that I'd like to get out on the table is that we, regardless of what's in the FEAR, we have authority. You know, we have our authority. It does not supersede our authority. It backs up our authority. So this issue, until we see architecturals, I just, and we don't even have any, they're not even on the, they're not on the current schedule for construction. We don't have any physical representations of it, and they have added to the parcel, which isn't indicated in the overall planning document yet. So, from my point of view, I can't get agitated about this, but in discussing with you, Anna, you made a very good point, especially, Anna's point is that especially where this building might be forward into almost the common, it should have a form-based code height. That, to me, that doesn't mean the entire building would have to have that height, but until we see some specific, my feeling is until we see some specific architectural proposals, that I can't get agitated about it, but that's my opinion.
How did we approve the one at the Point? That one's 4 stories.
The different zoning district.
Yeah, it's not a common. Daryl.
I was gonna bring up the same thing about, what's the, because we don't have street view, so I can't see how many stories because it looks like 3 stories from this
Well, it's 4 stories.
picture here, 4 stories on it. And I tend to agree that I don't view that document as the binding thing there, but I'm also have the same alternate concern, though, is because this project has so much state visibility that any document approved by the state may imply pressure on us for how we should be approving things. So I think I'm torn that it does need to be accurate, but I also view it's not binding, but this project, like I said, has such state level visibility that I just see that being thrown in our face, that the state's already state agrees with us that it should be this, and then we would have an implied external pressure on us to do things. So I would like to make sure it reflects accuracy there. I just don't know about the 3-story versus 4-story piece right now.
I don't think we can, no, we don't have a proposal.
Right.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can thread that needle. So we got back from Green International, the traffic team, a draft FEIR letter. Give that to you at the end of the meeting and ask for comments back from board members by next Wednesday, so I can put a final letter together. I think if we just thread the needle on that zoning height question, just say it's, referring back to the prior comment, that it doesn't appear that it meets the standards for the district, and just push off the final zoning determination until we get enough information for the zoning enforcement to make that determination.
So that would mean that we would say this is presently stated, it does not meet zoning, and that's a concern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could support
Yep.
A statement like
Okay.
that.
So that's a good point. So we'll get the traffic thing. We'll each give our comments to Maren before Wednesday. She will incorporate it into is that, well, first of all, Bartlett, you haven't,
Well, I was under the impression that when we approved the very early schematics a long time ago, that the form-based code ran along King Street and didn't go down Great Road towards 495.
yeah.
So the hotel was, I thought, past the
No,
250-foot
it's
line.
within the form-based code.
Is it?
It's
Partially it is.
it's where the Tuttle House is now.
No,
No,
actually,
the Tuttle House stays there. It connects to the
does
Tuttle
not
House
stay there.
and it
They're
goes.
moving the Tuttle House.
So I
But
think that
it-
just clarifies that we need a final plan from them, and we have a
Yeah.
concern that 4
Well,
stories may not be.
As stated in the FEIR, it appears to not conform to zoning.
Right.
And,
Okay, that's,
So that would be good if we can go ahead and make that statement. And then I do have a question. So if we're going to be receiving a traffic report, that we all have to independently comment on, why aren't we talking about it as a board?
It just came in today,
And what's the deadline for it?
next Friday. Yeah, it's, I've got a 3.5 page letter, so, well,
Well, that's really unfortunate because traffic has been one of the biggest issues that,
but why can't we have individual comments?
because then we don't have an opportunity to discuss it as a board.
I don't know what to say. It may be unfortunate, but the letter could also say, oh, everything's great, which it probably doesn't, but. So, everyone check their email, get the traffic report, generate any other comments you might have, and give them tomorrow. And didn't we, some of these, we paid for the peer review traffic from this professional services item, okay. Okay, the last on our board business is public input. Is there anyone here who would like to have public input? I don't see anyone coming forward, so we're going to, it is past 6:40. We're going to continue the public hearing for 64 Beaver Brook Road stormwater review, after which we will take up the A&R.
Good evening. My name is Frank McPartland from Dillis and Roy Civil Design Group, here on behalf of the applicant for 64 Beaver Brook Road. I'm covering for Greg Roy, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, but due to some conflicts. I understand this is probably, I believe, the second time that this has come before the planning board. It was originally opened in, I believe, June, and then there was a series of comments from Green International, as well as permitting with the Conservation Commission that needed to get worked out before coming back to the planning board. Is that correct?
We've had peer review and we've had, the Guerreros may weigh in on this, a long process with the conservation.
Oh, yes, yes, which I'm happy to report that we have a recorded order of conditions from the Conservation Commission. So we've fully satisfied what they've been looking for on the project. I'm also informed, as of yesterday, I believe, that we have covered all of Green International's comments as well. They had provided comments originally on 7/25, which we've addressed, and then a comment letter dated it was September 26th that has also been addressed, and after that there were 2 outstanding comments that we received on 11/11, which we got right back into Green, and they looked at those, and everything has been addressed as far as they're concerned with the stormwater permit for the project.
So, we don't, do you have the latest?
Yes.
Okay, can you maybe put it on? So, as I understand it,
Yeah, the posted.
we've,
So it was down to two things that were deferred to the board.
board, right,
One was whether or not you're okay with the testing, the soil testing for the detention areas to be out of season. That is a standard that, and the board has approved that in the past. And the second one is, I believe, to have the SWIP, or the O&M plan signed.
O&M, yes.
No, O&M plan.
okay.
They're very standard things. Everything else they addressed in an update, a
No,
late
this
update
was,
to the plans.
I mean, as usual, there's an extensive process and back and forth.
Yes.
So, Mark, do you have any concerns?
I have no concerns.
Darryl? That being said, may I hear a motion to approve
You're gonna
the?
close first.
Close.
Oh. Do I hear a motion to close the meeting, close the hearing?
So moved.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, do I hear a motion to approve the stormwater management permit as outlined in the decision of, well, dated today? And there aren't any other, there's just date here, name here. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I will do a roll call vote. Mark?
Yes.
Darryl?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Anna?
Yes.
Okay, so we're done with that.
That step, yep.
The next step is the ANR, which is the subdivision of the land, the site in question. And do I, Mark, do you have any comments on that?
I just want to make sure have you been to Westford's?
We have not been to Westford yet, so we're here first because the vast majority of the permitting was through Littleton. So the next step in the A&R process would be Westford.
But you need frontage, and you need the
Correct.
frontage from Westford.
Correct.
So,
And we do have the endorsement requirements for both Littleton Planning Board and Westford Planning Board
So
on.
this would just be
on the
our
plan. So you,
contribution to that.
correct.
So as long as you get their endorsement, ours will, okay.
Yep.
Which is how we've done it in the past. It doesn't happen that often.
No, but that's generally, we go to the town with the most portion of the work first and then finish up with the other planning board.
Darryl?
Yeah, I had just, because I couldn't find it in the materials there. There's a lot requirement in terms of a calculation for
Do you
the
have
ones that
that?
have, used to be called pork chop
It's right
lots.
there.
Yeah, do you have the odd shaped lot?
Yeah, we do have,
I didn't see that ratio in any of the.
so we have the shape factors called out for lots 1 and 3. Right on the plan, lot 1 has a shape factor of 0.47, and lot 3 has a shape factor of 0.42. And I'm just looking for the,
Shape factor for lot 2 is 1.0.
and correct, the shape factor for lot 2 is 1, which is a more regular shape lot.
And our requirement is 0.4. I did see it, I just couldn't find it when I was looking for it.
Understandable, especially on an 11 by
Well, I
17
was
copy.
swamped with all the supporting materials for this meeting. Bartlett, any comments?
Comment?
Okay, so, this was not a hearing, do we need to, yeah,
It was
so
just
this
an
is just a
A&R.
vote. So, I'm gonna poll the board for support. Mark,
I have no problem with it.
Darryl,
No.
Bartlett,
I'm good with it.
Anna?
Good.
I approve, so the NR is approved, and we will sign the documents.
So it's usually you do take a motion to approve the NR as presented.
Okay, that's not what I did.
I would recommend we.
Well, let's do it, let's
Doing
do
it
it over,
over.
let's
I
do
make
it
a
over.
motion to approve
Okay.
the A&R as presented.
Can I have a here second?
Second.
Mark,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Oh, one page, or are we doing them?
We have,
Just one's fine.
okay,
Just the Mylar.
The Mylar copy.
yeah, this is the one we need to sign.
I just signed the other one.
Date is
Yep,
11.
and just wanna make sure it's the left block.
Yeah.
The right town.
Yeah, that's right, don't sign the Westford. Okay, so, Brewers, congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, we have a 6:55 public hearing for permit extension request for the community care collection. We need to open.
Mr.
the
Chair?
hearing? Yeah.
Before that happens, I need to recuse myself from that particular item on the agenda, as well as item number 4 for G7.
I want to, though, distinguish, you were not recusing because of a conflict of interest. You don't have to leave the room. Thank you.
I spoke with the attorney today. They said
Really?
yes.
Okay. Yes.
So if someone could just let me know when we're back on
Sure.
item number 5, thank you.
Okay,
We do need to open.
Yep, and it's a new public hearing, so I'll read the hearing
Yes,
notice.
thank you.
Public hearing, adult use marijuana establishments, special permit, 537 Great Road. The Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 13th, 2025 at 6:55 PM in room 103 of the Shattuck Street Town Offices at 37 Shattuck Street to consider an application to extend an adult use marijuana establishment special permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, and Article 28, Adult Use Marijuana Establishments of the Code of Littleton Zoning. Property 537 Great Road, Assessors Map R18, Parcel 14-9. Owner 537 Great Road Realty Trust. Applicant Community Care Collective, Inc. The applicant is seeking to continue operation of the existing adult use marijuana retail facility. Application can be viewed online on the Planning Board page of the town website or at the Planning Board and Town Clerk's offices during their business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed work should provide written comments to the Planning Board office by November 10th, if possible, or attend the public hearing. And then there's information on how to get hold of staff with any questions. Signed, Bartlett Harvey, Clerk.
So, that being said, David's with us. Would you like to make a statement?
Good evening. Sorry for the delay there. Thank you for having us this evening. We have put together a comprehensive application. We treated this like it was a new application, even though it was or is a renewal. So we followed the new application procedures. We completed all of the application documents, included all of the supplement documents. Also included, we've had 3 amendments to our special permit throughout the years in 2023, 24, and 25, and have included the details on those. And we have also recently signed a new host community agreement with the town based on the town's acknowledgement of a new regulation that the Cannabis Control Commission has put out. So that has been completed and included in this package. And we're also current with our license, and actually just the other day, our license was renewed with the CCC, so it's good through December of 2026. So we are current in compliance, and I'm happy to answer any questions for this renewal.
I made the mistake of just pressing the button to print out your supporting materials, and you'll be happy to know that I think I used at least a ream of paper. I didn't pay attention to what was going on. So you have a very thorough presentation. I'll open it to the board.
I have no problems. I haven't heard one complaint about anything going on down there. Have you? I don't think anyone has.
Daryl?
No, I think, I didn't really have any issues with the thing there. I did have a question, though, and it's related to complaints, is there been any police records of complaints or incidents at the facility there?
So since this is a facility that's open to the public, I did reach out to the other boards and departments for any questions or comments that they might have. Police department wrote back and said they have no issues with the extension of this permit. Similar for the fire department. They did a thorough inspection of the building's fire and life safety systems just this morning, and they have no objections to the extension of the special permit, but they would like a condition included that says as long as the fire protection systems within the facility are maintained, inspected, and remain in compliance with applicable fire and building codes, yearly inspections should be scheduled with the fire department to ensure continued compliance and proper system maintenance. There were no other comments from other departments.
And the purpose of my question is not directed directly or towards there. It's more in terms of as marijuana facilities were being considered and discussed at town meetings and other things there, the concern about increased police presence and incident response was always brought up by the public. And now that we have several in for renewals, I'd like to just see if we have data that supports that there has or has not been a issue with police response needed at these facilities.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yeah.
And what you're basically telling me is the police chief said that there's no issue with police response to their facility.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
I'd just like to,
Yeah.
I mean, these are the types of things the public asks about, so I just want to make sure that we address.
Anything else?
No.
Bartlett?
I'm good, thanks.
So, I have to close the, let me ask any comments? Okay, then do I hear a motion to close?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Can I hear a motion to approve the, what do we call it, the special permit extension for Community Care Collective?
I'll make a motion that we approve the renewal of the special permit for Community Care Collaborative.
Do we need to include the additional comments made?
We'll put it in as conditions of approval.
Subject to the condition of the fire department, but I'm curious, wouldn't that apply to any open to the public building?
We have a brand-new fire safety officer who is
So
willing to
so
share their wording on what they would like to see.
We'll be hearing this more
Yeah.
Okay, Bartlett? Oh, so, you said
Second.
aye with this condition?
Yep.
Bartlett?
Aye.
And I say aye.
Aye.
So, Mr. Gianetta, you are approved for 3 more years? 5 more years. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, the maximum.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You say that's the maximum that's allowed by the bylaw.
Okay, next, we have a
Thank you.
similar
Thank you.
public hearing, which we will open. Myron, would you read the?
Okay, public hearing, adult use marijuana establishments special permit, 160 Ayer Road. The Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 13, 2025 at 7:10 p.m. in room 103 of the Shattuck Street Town Offices at 37 Shattuck Street to consider an application to extend an adult use marijuana establishment special permit to Mass General Law, Chapter 48 and Article 28, adult use marijuana establishments of the Code of Littleton zoning. Property is 160 Air Road, Unit 3, Assessor's Map R22, Parcel 1-1, owners G7 Lab LLC, applicant Goldsmith Preston Ringwald on behalf of the owner. The owner is seeking to continue operation of the existing G7 marijuana testing laboratory. Application can be viewed online on the planning board page of the town website or at the planning board and town clerk's office during their business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed work should provide written comments to the planning board office by November 10th, if possible, or attend the public hearing. And then includes information on how to contact the planning board office, signed Bartlett Harvey, clerk.
Mr. Ringwald.
Good evening. Chris Ringwald from GPR, Goldsmith Preston Ringwald, representing G7 Labs for a special permit renewal. We have submitted all of the documents with the key upgrades of the new host community agreement, their new Cannabis Control Commission license. I think there was a minor update in the drug, alcohol, and smoke-free workplace section, and a new lease agreement, plus all the many other documents that were required as part of the application for being submitted, and also a copy of the previous decision and of the approval. Copy of the site plan as is. Before it was all with things proposed, now they're all there. So in existing conditions, and made reference to the previous filing for anything that I may have overlooked. And with that, I turn it over to the board for any questions they might have.
Maren, you did not ask input from police, fire, etc., because this is not a public.
This is not a facility that's open to the public.
Okay. Board. Any
Again,
questions?
we've heard nothing. First of all, we never had a problem with the traffic there. I remember
No.
that was early. The owners of the building were concerned about the traffic, never materialized. We haven't heard anything about any problems there. Probably don't even know it exists over there.
That was a comment I made earlier today.
In fairness, the traffic concerns were because of
The retail that was going next to
yeah,
it, but
which
it
never
wasn't-
happened,
Yeah.
Darrell.
No, I didn't have any problem with the extension, and again, confirming that we haven't had any issues. I don't have any issues.
Bartlett.
No issues.
That being said.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I have a question.
yes.
Since this is, and I think I put in somewhere, or I meant to put in, about possibly not having to renew, but then since I've read through the bylaw closer and understand that it's in the bylaw that these facilities have to renew every 5 years. In the next 5 years, is it possible for the applicant to limit the documentation rather than sending a couple hundred pages to you of all this other stuff, to the host community agreement, their updated license, and their updated lease? Kind of streamline the process a little bit, since they don't have so much traffic and they're pretty straightforward facility?
Pretty benign.
Thank you. I was not going to use that word.
In 5 years, I hope that I won't be.
I was hoping to get it into the record now so that we had a set.
As I said
program.
with Collective Care, I made the mistake of printing the whole damn thing out, and it was crazy. Because it was all the original Cannabis Control Commission, blah, blah, blah. And there's less for G7. But I think you could just try to do that. And the board as constituted then can decide whether they want the whole thing or not.
It's a renewal. That's all
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, now, any other comments from the public? Without that, I will ask for a motion to close the hearing.
I make a motion that we close the hearing on G7.
I want to second it, but I want to say something before.
Yeah.
I'm good with, eventually getting to the point that if the document hasn't changed, there's no need to resubmit it. We just reference the previous one. However, if there's any change to it, I'd insist on a complete resubmittal of the document, not change bars to the document. Those have become very confusing to keep track of.
Yes.
And that we always have a current, as published report available for it. Second.
Okay. Bartlett.
Can I vote for you for chair in 5 minutes?
It might be. Bartlett.
No,
Oh, no, we don't. No, we need to vote.
We need to-
All okay.
Yes.
Bartlett?
yes.
Darrell?
Yes.
My yes. Okay. Hearing is closed. Now may I have a motion to grant the special permit extension request for G7 Labs? Okay, second?
Second.
Okay.
Yes.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Good.
Extension granted.
Thank you.
Now, we are
Did we get?
not quite to, no, 7:25. No, we're not,
Do we
we're
get
not.
Anna?
We all of a
there
sudden
yet.
caught up.
Well, the accessory dwelling is just a discussion, right?
Well, but we expect members of the zoning board of appeals to join us. And they were told 7:40.
No,
There's only 2 of us here so far.
okay.
I'm
So-
not sure
Do you-
who's coming, I can contact them.
Sherry, would you
2:42.
mind doing the informal discussion of 359 King to fill in the time?
Oh,
Is my
yeah.
engineer's not here,
Okay,
sorry.
no problem. I didn't think we'd be in this position because we sort of had a jam-packed meeting.
I might be able to get him to come
Okay.
over.
We have 8 minutes to kill.
Not too bad.
Did Bruce leave? Oh, okay.
He'll be back for the 242.
Well,
Yeah, but 242 is continued, right?
well, not yet.
He wants to, yeah.
Well, we're gonna open the hearing.
Overview of the
Yeah.
project, we'll open the hearing.
Yeah, you should be interested in that one.
Really? It doesn't have my name on it, what do I care?
You were there long enough, you
Yeah.
probably do the report.
Do we have the hearing notice for the stormwater hearing notice?
Print out a fresh one today. I might.
You do? Thank you. Very efficient.
Bruce isn't here, but in one of the stormwater checklists,
Mhm.
I think he may have missed, I think it was for G7. There seemed to be a lot of items checked off that didn't apply, and I was wondering if it was a different
Okay, yeah, well, look,
project. So just
Hey,
look into
I
that.
have a question.
mhm.
The 2 pieces of the buildings next to the house, the title house, they're not part of form-based code because they were never included in, because they were residential. I mean, they were,
No, that's,
so the,
it's part of the village common district.
including the gas station and the
Yeah.
building next to it.
Mhm.
We went all the way to, I thought we stopped when we got there, because,
No, included, because it includes the Yangtze site and the doctor's office next door, and it includes those, the parcels with the residential buildings and the little stores, et cetera, and includes the, service station, the gas station.
then why didn't it go to 410 Great Road? Why didn't we keep going?
Well, when
It
we
does,
approved,
Village Common does include
The
410
front of
Great Road.
410.
No, the whole thing. That whole parcel.
That whole
we had a
parcel?
discussion about that, yeah.
Yeah, and went back and looked at the maps that we used for the zoning bylaw amendment, and we specifically included 410. Because that was
I mean,
kind of the
because-
town signal saying, you know, we really want
But
something
that-
done with this site.
That followed the prior zoning line between industrial A and industrial B or
Yeah, I
something
think-
like that.
Right. Right, because previous zoning was industrial B at that site, which is why the current uses went.
That's how what 225 came from. So I was just saying that, you know, we can chat about 550 King for a minute. I'll be very interested to see how you know, because the residential part of this commercial part of it hasn't really been talked about much. I'd be curious how they're gonna deal with the affordability.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
I mean, originally.
Because we've always been thinking about the apartment building, you know, and not the housing there. So,
The hope always was that it was gonna come here or something like that.
right. Well, but, yeah, so I'm just curious what, but Anna was showing me the latest, that's from the FEIR that you were showing me, shows a building that's unlabeled in the far right-hand corner where that digital parking lot was. It's labeled residential, but it does not have a designation, and I'm wondering if that's what they're gonna get to.
Maybe they had to put everything in so that the state got to look at
Yeah,
everything, whether it actually comes to fruition or not.
yeah.
I don't know.
But it would be, well, they'll be sharing, I'm wondering if you should extract that, the latest site plan from the FEIR and just send it to each of us.
Okay.
Shows it in figure 1-3 of the FEIR. It's page 11 of the 528-page document.
All right, Bruce is back here at 5:25, 7:25.
I read real slow. I read real slow.
Yes, read real slow.
Are you ready? Okay. Public hearing, stormwater management permit, 242 King Street. The Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 13, 2025 at 7:25 p.m. in room 103 of the Shattuck Street Town Offices at 37 Shattuck Street to consider a stormwater management permit application under Chapter 38, Article 2, Stormwater Management and Erosion Control of the Code of Littleton, property 242 King Street, map U36, parcel 17. Owner applicant, Littleton Electric Light and Water Department, engineer Goldsmith Preston Ringwall. Application can be viewed online at the planning board page of the town website or at the planning board and town clerk's office during their business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed work should provide written comment to the planning board office, and then how to get in contact with the planning board office.
So, we're still 2 minutes short of our scheduled thing. We do have the town council here in the room. Can we go forward? Or maybe not?
Probably wait 2 minutes.
Okay.
There's
I
only
knew
one-
you were gonna say
There's only
that.
one answer he can give.
We could put the plan up on the thing.
Yeah, that's true. We can get the plan up.
You do know the Patriots are playing at 8:15, right? You are aware.
Come on, you got a DVR, right?
That's what that other TV's for.
And just so anyone in the room or watching this knows, this is the subject, the property where the new wastewater recovery facility is, the former home of Mr. Montanari here. And it is being proposed, the site is being proposed for residential use. We're almost there.
Yeah? No?
Oh, that clock, why is that clock fast?
I'm just going by my phone.
Oh.
35 seconds to count, Jeff.
Okay. Yeah, that clock is always a little fast.
Yeah, I'm curious about this.
watch pot never boils.
Yeah. Seconds never tick down.
Mine says 7:20.
Okay, we're there. Go ahead, Bruce.
Good evening, Bruce Ringwald from GPR, representing Littleton Electric Light and Water Department. As Chairman Yates stated, not only is this proposed to be a single-family residence, it has been, and it is a single-family residence, just unoccupied at the moment. As you know, the rest of the property has been permitted for the treatment plant. It's been before the planning board and the conservation commission, et cetera. Eventually, we will be back before this board with an A&R plan. The property is land court, so we have to go through the land court process, which is never quick. And when that's done, we'll be back here with an A&R to break off this lot so it can be sold as a residential lot. To that extent, the driveway that used to enter onto the property is been rehabbed, as you've seen driving by, and is now the driveway entrance to the treatment plant and the facility behind the property and up adjacent to 495. This property, we are proposing to have its own separate driveway. It's labeled for 5 parking places. It's supposed to be 4, and one of them's a turnaround, but that's neither here nor there. It doesn't really have to have lines, and it won't have lines because it's a residence. But in the process of doing this, we will be removing the pool house or shed that's back there. They have already removed, but it's part of this application to remove all of the pavement and parking that is in that hay baled off area on the plan northwest of the site there. And the reduction of that is a reduction of impervious area, even with the new parking put in, of 2,235 square feet, of which the majority of that area is within the riverfront line, which is the second dash line that goes to the left of the house, red dash that you see up there. And the 100-foot riverfront line is the one on the kind of center of the page, going through a lot of the erosion control. And then the next line that kind of sticks out bright over there is the floodplain line. And adjacent to that floodplain line is a dashed yellow line, which is the 50-foot buffer. So as you're well aware, Littleton Conservation Commission has a do not disturb 50-foot buffer. It is a disturbed area now in that it is lawn. It's not naturalized buffer zone. It's lawn. It's been lawn for a long time. The proposal that we have here is putting in this new parking area, a new curb cut onto King Street, and then we have proposed a small ponding area there, and that ponding area is covering an inch of flow because we are in a aquifer or watershed protection district, and we are in the riverfront and the buffer zone. We're doing an inch of flow to be captured by that little ponding area and allowed to infiltrate and be absorbed into the ground. It does have an overflow if we have a much bigger storm, so the water can overflow and then flow across the property. But that's really it in a nutshell relative to the erosion control. From doing that, we get the reduction in TSS that's required by the state, and we also get the reduction in phosphorus that is on many local regulations, but not on the state yet. And it's pretty straightforward. So I know that they've put out, you folks have put out to Green for their review. Hopefully they don't use that full amount of the estimate that was put forward, because there's not a lot to be reviewed here from that standpoint. But all this, the detail is in the application, and I turn it over to the board for any questions.
I would ask that, and there may be another drawing. I think you need to show the proposed A&R on this?
I guess I can do that, but I guess my question is why?
Well, but doesn't, well, I'd like to see the driveway of the WRRF located. I just, it doesn't completely describe the site, and I don't know, that's all.
Yeah, we could say it's not necessarily what the A&R is, but I think we need the full site plan.
Well, if you go to I made reference to their site plans, the CDM site plans. No, it doesn't show it. I thought it showed over in the locus over there, but it doesn't.
Or maybe you just show it on the, the A&R. I don't know, I just think that it, if, especially, let's say for the, I mean, are there any calculations that involve lot coverage or whatever? I mean, how can you have those
that is a yes, but that's an A&R thing. We're here for stormwater.
However, how can anyone looking at this know what that would be if you don't have a parcel indicated?
No, it's the stormwater for the whole site. The back of the site has already been dealt with and addressed. They've got a detention basin. They have their BMPs that they've put on for that portion of the site. We're now dealing with this portion of the site, and the changes here are a reduction in impervious area.
So if you're referring to the entire site, let's show, like Daryl asked, let's show the entire site.
This says site plan, and this is not the entire site. This is just a portion of it. And I think for us to understand it in context, we need the site plan.
Okay.
Not just a subsection of it.
Well, and
here.
I think
Because it took me a long time to try to figure out where's the other driveway for the existing facility, and it's not shown on this drawing here.
That's correct.
So where's water shedding? How's it shed to the other lot? I can't tell that from what's been submitted.
Okay.
And then, this is a stupid question. I assume they're connecting they're connecting this to the new.
This will be connected to the treatment plant.
Okay.
The septic system the tanks will be, and there's a note to the effect, but the tanks on the plan, but the tanks will be pumped and crushed inside and backfilled. And then from there, you can see the force main that goes across. There will be an E1 system put in, and force main will connect to the main that will be going down the driveway, and it will be connected right to the sewer. So the septic system will exist in the ground, but won't be there. The tanks will be gone and replaced with an E1, and the pool will come out, and the pool house will come out.
And then, once again, this is more of a graphics thing, but, the goal is to reduce the impervious.
Which we have.
I know, but it's hard to just look at think you're a dummy. You're not a dummy, I'm a dummy. It would be nice to see some graphic representation of the impervious to be removed.
Okay, so we've made reference to those plans. I will bring those plans and I will get permission to adapt a portion of them onto here so that there's an outline of what you're looking for.
So in general, we will ultimately be approving the A&R. We have peer review for stormwater, but the Conservation Commission is the key player in this.
Yes.
So we, in our experience with the 64 Beaverbrook Road was quite a lengthy, I don't know if it's gonna be that way with this, but, so we will continue this hearing, subject to peer review and conservation and all that stuff.
Fine. I was going to request a continuance at any rate. We have continued the conservation meeting because we don't have a DEP number yet, and so we're just holding off on that.
You had a comment?
Well, that was actually going to be my question, so I have a couple of them. One is the peer review, because we haven't seen anything, even though the decision said that there was a version from July 8th, so it's good to know that that's still in the works. For the draft decision that was created, there isn't a section on determinations or findings, so I think that that's critical for any decision that needs to be included. So I think that might have been a little early. And then the last question I have is, I know that you have authorization for acting as agent to LELWD. Is Carla Ike an employee of GRP?
Yes.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Why does this dim lately? Two different two comments. One is I look in the drawing. You described it as a single-family house, but the drawing is showing it as a multifamily house.
Okay.
That I don't think.
I think
is
there
accurate.
was an apartment on back. I'm not sure that they're moving forward with that as an apartment or not, so.
Because it's going to tie into maybe ADUs and other things here about multifamily housing and other pieces there. But I want to note whether that is that a multifamily dwelling, and is it permitted as a multifamily dwelling?
It has
Or is it a
had an
single?
existing apartment, and you'd have to ask the
It
gentleman.
is it is permitted as a multifamily dwelling.
Multifamily is 3 or more. So,
Okay, well, it's got two
I'd like to
units.
just have clarification on that, maybe
2
not
units.
2 units.
here, because I think it ties into some of the other discussions.
And
that we wanna
that
have.
actually ties into the parking lot count, because I was wondering why you had, because it is it
At
parked
one
for-
point, we were, I've always known that it had an apartment in the back.
Okay.
And so from that standpoint, I was looking at it as 2 parking spaces for both the main
Okay.
unit and the
Fine.
apartment. I haven't gotten a clear definition from the applicant as to whether they're gonna list it as that, or they intend to list it as just a single family, so.
So, as it relates to stormwater, that's important. I mean, you seem, well,
The parking's important. but-
Parking's important because
but-
it's impervious, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera. If it was a single family, you wouldn't need as much parking and, whatever. So, that does need to be clarified.
And then the other one, and maybe it will be addressed during either conservation or the technical review there, but it seems that we've had more recently 1-inch plus rain events.
Oh, no, you definitely have.
And I don't see how and that's right, and I think it needed to defer to the technical review.
Yes.
In terms of 1 inch of rainfall and a retention pond more than 1 inch of rainfall and a retention pond designed for 1 inch of rainfall.
All right. So,
That seems not quite for me.
okay.
Um,
I'll wait until
Yeah,
Green
we can
does
wait till
their
they do the
comments,
technical
because
review.
it's, the 1 inch of rainfall is relative to the impervious area, and we've reduced the impervious area here, so we're not making something bigger and starting from scratch and coming up with all kinds of new drainage for something that's been there. So we're trying to address the new impervious area,
But it's
even
also
though we've
within the-
reduced the impervious
It's
area.
also within the 50-foot.
That's true, but that doesn't, it's not within the 50-foot no build, it's outside of the 50-foot no
Well,
build.
maybe I misunderstood the yellow line that you told us about just a minute ago then.
It goes along.
There's
with
2 yellow lines, there's one that's the 100-foot buffer, and then there's one that's the 50-foot buffer. So you want to be looking at the one that's, the dash one that's on the right as you're looking at the plan from the basin. Goes
So
right
we
underneath
should,
the line.
we
Those
should.
should be keyed up for green for
Well,
technical
green,
review.
I'm sure is, I'm not sure.
I've not
but-
heard a word from Green.
But but the Conservation Commission, et cetera, but goes back to, you did the original drainage with stormwater management for the entire site.
We did not, someone
Oh,
else did.
someone else did, okay.
CDM did
I
the
see.
original
Okay.
permitting, and they've been dealing with that portion, that permit was there, so I've got to deal with the applicant and CDM, and I'll get a hold of some additional
Great.
information. I don't want to revisit that world, but I'll show how that
Yes.
world is working, and then we're addressing this portion of that.
So, going to the continuation, because there's these other parts to go. We have our normally scheduled meeting in December is the 4th.
Yep.
We would like not to have that meeting because we have a subsequent meeting on the 15th for just 550 King. Do you think that you would have any conservation determination by the 4th?
Our meeting is scheduled for the 2nd,
Okay.
and
do you think it's
hopefully
gonna
we'll
be
have stuff
disposed of
addressed
in-
then, whenever we have, and your your next meeting is,
Monday, the 15th?
Monday, the 15th,
oh, it's on
however.
Monday.
It's it's for a specific purpose. I guess if you thought, we could continue to the 15th, if you thought that you had everything, your ducks in a row.
I don't wanna come in after 5:50. It's gonna be late at night.
Well, it would be, we'd probably have to do it before,
Yeah. We can communicate with Cooper and in the interim and set.
Well,
Oh, no, we have to set it up now.
We have to set it up now.
Well, how about if we continue to before now, and if everything isn't resolved, we'll ask for the next meeting?
Can
Mr.
we
Chair,
continue it to the 15th? We would like to avoid the 4th because there's no other work. So let's do it to the first item in the 15th. I mean, is that okay?
Fine with me, but I think.
Yeah.
yeah,
Do it
I think
however
that
you
works
want.
out the best, because if the CONSCOM meeting is until Tuesday night, December 2nd,
Yeah.
that is not within the 48-hour timeframe for us to
Well,
get
I'm
information.
skeptical even you're gonna be, by the 5th. I know it's your job to push things along, but, so anyway, and you just keep us posted. We'll give them 10 minutes so that we don't have to twiddle our thumbs.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Do I need a motion for that? Can I have a motion to continue this application to, a time, do you wanna say 6:40?
If we do it first at 6:30.
Okay, 6:30, we'll skip the board business, okay. 6:30, December 15th. And we are in, just so you know, I think we're in the Shattuck Center, in the senior center,
Oh, okay.
Senior Center.
yeah.
Ooh.
I haven't even been in there yet.
No, it's same here, it'll be, well, spend a half an hour just looking around. So move, can I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, great.
Thank you very much for your time this
Thank
evening.
you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay,
Nice Thanksgiving.
next, do you want to open, well, we're having a discussion with a joint meeting of the planning board and the Board of Appeals about the ADU zoning, a potential zoning bylaw amendment for accessory dwelling units, working toward a May 2026 town meeting.
No,
You're gonna stay in the back row.
thank you.
Share.
So, Maren, I'm gonna give it over to you to
Okay.
orchestrate this.
There we go. So, first off, thank you very much. Accessory dwelling units, why do we need to do them? Okay, so tonight hopefully is evident why we need to meet. Purpose of the meeting is to gather your input on updating the accessory dwelling unit bylaw. We'll go review what the process is to update the bylaw, give you some baseline information, or share the draft with you, ask for the policy input, and then outline what the next steps are to get this to town meeting. So the purpose of the meeting, get your input, process to update the bylaw, rather than print out the 14 steps that we need to go through. I love Cooper's approach. It requires a simple majority vote at town meeting, according to the legislation. Process to date, MAPC has been working with staff on their model, on the state's model ADU bylaw, and helping to tailor it for Littleton's needs. Now we're here today at the joint meeting to Planning Board and Appeals Board. Town Council was nice enough to review the initial draft, provided some guidance on that, and the draft that you see in front of you is the recommended draft from MAPC and Town Council. So next steps, we'll receive the policy input, we'll update the bylaw, and bring it back for a public hearing. Perhaps as early as the March planning board meeting, depending on how the discussions go and depending on your direction. So why do we need to change the accessory apartment bylaw that we have? Because of new legislation called the Affordable Homes Act, which requires all communities to allow accessory dwelling units by right in every district where single-family homes are allowed. State sets the maximum for ADUs at 900 feet, but gives 900 square feet, but gives communities the option to have a larger ADU if we so desire. Littleton's current accessory apartment bylaw allows units of up to 1,200 square feet. So our presumption in this presentation, or in the draft bylaw, is that you want to keep the 1,200 square feet. But of course, we're here to get input on that. So Cooper adapted this chart from that HLC put out about things that communities can and cannot do in your ADU bylaws. And we'll be looking for the policy direction on several of these issues. Definition of an ADU.
Could you go back to that?
Yep.
And just go through item by item about municipalities can regulate and require.
Okay, so for municipalities that require site plan review for all single-family homes, you can require site plan review for ADUs. Littleton does not require site plan review for single-family homes, so you would have to require site plan. If you want to have site plan review for ADUs, you would have to do it for all single-family homes.
What about stormwater regulations?
Stormwater regulations are triggered if disturbance is 40,000 square feet or more. So it's hard to imagine an ADU that would meet the bylaw that would require stormwater review. So the next one down, the town can impose a prohibition on the use of ADUs as short-term rentals. Think Airbnb and similar. And the town can stipulate the maximum number of ADUs that you want to allow on a lot. The draft presumes that you want to ask for one, but that was just our throw something out there and hope to get the feedback from you on it. So those are the items that the
and
town.
Can you refer to the survey we did on short-term rentals? Or just mention it so people can, okay.
Yep, on the ADU page, we do have all the results of the survey that Cooper put together on short-term rentals. It was a mixed bag on the response. We didn't ask specifically about ADUs and short-term rentals. We just asked about short-term rentals to see if we could get a flavor of what the town was looking for. Like I said, there was some that were in favor of it and some that were opposed. I've heard some say that if you don't allow short-term rentals and ADUs, then all ADUs that are created will create the needed housing. And I've heard the other side of that, well, if you don't allow them to be used for short-term rentals, then they may never get created. So over time, you might see fewer ADUs created if you do restrict them. So I think we'll be looking for your policy input on that. Okay, so a little bit of history on Littleton's accessory apartment bylaw. Last was updated in 2018 when we worked together on it. Right now, attached ADUs are allowed by right, detached ADUs by special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's very big simplification of what's allowed. We require 2 off-street parking spaces for each ADU. Requires owner occupancy of either the main unit or the ADU. Maximum site is no more than 1,200 square feet, and ADUs are not considered multifamily. But a lot of our current bylaw cannot be enforced, and it doesn't meet the requirements of the affordable housing. So, let's see, so we have a draft. Discussion was guided by MAPC, reviewed by town council, and then so the policy questions that we know we need to ask for are, do you want to require site plan review? Do you want to allow short-term rentals? What's the number of protected ADUs per lot that you wish to allow, and the maximum size of ADUs? And then after we're done with that, then we can go over what the next steps are.
Okay. So, of the people here, Sherry's like me.
Just one quick question on the presentation.
Yes.
You said our bylaw is not now enforceable. Can you just say why?
A lot of it is not enforceable because it doesn't meet the Affordable Homes Act legislation. And that specifically says that you can't enforce the requirement for owner occupancy and for the number of parking spaces and for anything that doesn't meet the new legislation.
Isn't the ownership pretty much the biggest thing? And the number of parking spaces, it doesn't seem like, other than the ownership issue, we're not that far off.
And that'll be your policy direction on what is a big issue to you.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we talk?
Yes, Cheryl.
I don't know if everybody knows Chris.
Oh.
Sorry.
Let's introduce Attorney Heap, who is one of our town councils, who's here to monitor our discussion.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet those of you who I've met.
Have you been dealing with this with other towns?
Yes.
And what is the range of responses to these policy questions?
So I don't want to be overly sort of negative, but I guess the advice that I am typically giving towns who are looking to adopt a new bylaw is that there is, I think as Marin's slide, one of Marin's slides demonstrates, there is very little regulation that can be applied to ADUs at this point, now that we have the regulations in place. I can, as the discussion progresses, I can sort of attempt to, point out things we can do and things we cannot do. But the things that we cannot do relative to ADUs vastly outnumber the things that we can do. So to me, the safest new bylaw that you can adopt regulating ADUs does, not much. The use has to be allowed by right. You have to allow one per lot. The dimensional regulations that you can apply to ADUs are set in the state regulations, so there is not much tinkering you can do with where an ADU can go on a lot. The state regulates that. And although it is possible to apply site plan review to ADUs, as I said before, the dimensional tolerances of where they can go are established in the regulations, and you can't apply any design guidelines to an ADU that you don't apply to single-family homes. And assuming you don't apply site plan review type design review to single-family homes, you really can't do it to just ADUs. So I think what I've done there is point out a long, shorter long list of things that we can't regulate. So that's, so to answer your question, Mr. Chair, one of the most important tasks when coming up with a new bylaw in any town is coming up with a new bylaw that doesn't exceed the scope of what we're allowed to do under the state regulations.
It won't be approved and.
And to that point, I would say that I have, in the materials I sort of printed up to bring out to get ready for the meeting tonight, a 20-page approval/disapproval letter from the municipal law unit of the Attorney General's office for a town that adopted an ADU bylaw, and there was a 20-page single-spaced letter picking apart what they had done. I have never seen anything like the level of review the AG is applying to ADU bylaws. They are, crossing out and deleting anything that comes close to exceeding the scope of permissible regulation, and I think they're doing that because they perceive the policy purpose of this new legislation to be, allow ADUs and allow them by right without over much regulation by cities and towns. So, yes, we have to be very careful in terms of what the bylaw eventually includes, because if there's anything that runs afoul of the EOHLC's new regulations, it will be struck.
So, I think Daryl and I both attended a conference with the state group that promoted this. And one thing they said that was interesting to me was that, well, we have the regulations, but that's just the first step. The next step is the land use, the land court, this lawsuit, that lawsuit, that will go on and on, as we've seen over the years in Board of Appeals. What's your perspective on that?
There will certainly be litigation over that will, I guess, provide. There will be litigation about ADUs. That litigation will result in case law that will, answer questions to the extent either the statute or the regulations are unclear. The case law will answer the questions about.
And they definitely will. I mean, because there are infinite number of property configurations that may or may not be addressed by, these statutes.
So I'd say yes and no. I think someone could attempt to challenge EOHLC's regulations wholesale and say that they somehow
and that's not really what
exceed
I'm
the
getting
scope
at,
of the statute.
But I'm getting at well, anyway, as the the architect in me, I'm thinking this, that, the other thing, all these weirdo properties that that don't conform. The Board of Appeals makes its living off of things that are non-conforming.
So there's, I guess, what I'd say is there's a lot of, there was a lot when the statute first became effective that I think we regarded as unclear. Mm-hmm. The regulations which followed put a much finer point on what the state says the rules are. And the Attorney General's disapproval letters that have been issuing, for the past several months provide some additional information too about at least what will or will not get through the Attorney General's review. So I think as we talk about the bylaw, I think I've got a pretty good handle on what the sort of gray area is and what is established thus far. And I can sort of call them out separately as we go through them.
In my view, from the beginning, it was this is essentially, and tell me if I'm wrong, zoning every single parcel as a two-family. And the key, as Cheryl mentioned, difference in this is the ownership issue, where there had to. I mean, our bylaws started out with having a family or a dependent relationship. That went away, and then whatever. So, and it's just something to think about. And the other thing is, it will be something to think about with new homes being built with ADUs. One of the questions that comes up is, why can't we ask for site plan review for new homes with ADUs, but not for existing homes? And I would say with the, and this is something for us to think about, is that one of the great things about the special permit process for ADUs in the past is that neighborhoods could weigh in, neighbors could weigh in, you know. And this whole system is based on public hearings, and this is, you know, not to preclude them, but to acknowledge that there may be it's less so in our town because we have large parcels. But anyway, so one of our things should be, do we want to institute site plan review for single-family homes, or could we just do it for homes being built with ADUs?
So I don't know that you need to do site plan review for single-family homes in order to do them for ADUs.
That's my question.
But
Yeah.
you cannot apply design guidelines to an ADU that you don't apply to single-family homes. So stated differently,
Yeah, I don't see the difference there.
yeah, I guess I didn't explain that very well. I guess I'll throw the question back. If you were to do site plan review of an ADU, what would you be looking to regulate?
Setback, height, parking location, screening.
So an ADU can be located on a lot to the setback that is applicable to either the single-family dwelling or to an accessory structure, whichever is more permissive.
See, our accessory structure bylaw is very permissive. It goes down to, I think, 8 feet. Yeah. The same that you would have for a shed, and an ADU is a different. What I'm trying to get at is what do we need to look at in our basically zoning bylaw that we might have to change as part of this to get our idea about how this ADU thing should work.
If you didn't want to allow ADUs 8 or 10 feet from the property line, where you could put a shed or a accessory structure, you would need to increase that setback to all accessory structures.
So it's not the site plan
So
review.
you can't put a
it's the-
shed anymore?
No, you could put a shed,
20
but
feet.
not 8 feet from the property line. It'd have to be 15 feet.
10,
10,
detached, not 8.
Yeah, it's 10,
The
10
ADU,
and 20.
an
20 for
ADU
the
gets
house,
the
10
benefit.
15
for the house.
An ADU gets the benefit of the more forgiving setback that we apply to accessory structures. So you can't
It's 10.
get around that by trying to distinguish an ADU from a shed. You could only
Make the
increase-
shed conform.
make all sheds subject to an increased setback. And therefore, by doing that, you would effectively increase the setback.
And you don't need site plan review to enforce that. That would be just done through the.
That could be
building
done as a
permit.
baseline dimensional
But,
objective.
but two questions on that, if you don't mind. One question is, if it's an attached garage or shed or breezeway, it's 15 feet. So if it's an attached ADU, do we have the 15 feet privilege? And then if it's a detached garage or shed, it's 10 feet. And that, I understand, would be held the same if it's a detached ADU. But then the question is, the board has been asked on several occasions to give a variance of a lesser setback on especially small lots where it's warranted. And do we have the privilege of giving a lesser setback for a detached ADU? By variance?
By variance, you can always grant a dimensional variance.
Okay.
So,
Subject, of course, to the
so
requirements.
one of the problems that ZBA has all the time is sometimes people, where a garage should obviously be attached, there's room for it to be attached, it could be attached, they want to put it a little closer or make it a little bigger, they leave a foot between the buildings to be able to use the 10-foot setback rather than the 15-foot setback. If we lose that ability to, by right, to have things at the 10-foot setback rather than a 15-foot setback, I don't see the loss to our town. Did I say that right?
No.
Well,
I-
are you saying that it wouldn't be a loss to make sheds 15 feet? Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. And it would make.
I think that's
I'm trying to
probably
say
gonna
it
be one of the most
politely and
contentious
politically
issues in
correct.
town meeting about that, you know.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'd invite, you know, people who want their sheds to think about, well, if your neighbor puts a big ADU,
Right,
10
right.
feet away, yeah.
The other, couple things I want to talk about, should I wait till that particular subject?
Well,
comes up?
we, Miss Attorney Heap, now Sherry is telling me, Attorney Gold is chastising me for not referring to you as Attorney Heap. So I will say Attorney
prefer Chris.
Heap. Well, that was what I would normally say. Anyway.
Mr. Chair, while we're sort of on this topic, though, I did have two things that were related directly to this here. So in this little draft that we have under nonconformance, if it's a nonconforming lot and they want to build an ADU, it looks like there's no rules.
If there's a non-conforming lot and they want to build an ADU, they can.
Yes, however, there's no rules, like, does the ADU have to meet any of the setbacks relative to the existing nonconformities? Or, it looks like there needs to be some more language in this section here a little bit to say that, like, if you're gonna build an ADU, you don't have a problem building an ADU on a nonconforming lot or a nonconforming house there, but I don't want it to be nonconforming, like, it should meet the setbacks.
If it can.
Well, it should meet the setbacks.
But if it can't, then it shouldn't be built. I
No,
mean,
if
that's-
it can't, then it should come to the ZBA to see.
Right, but that's
if there's
not
a
what this
reason
says.
There's a hardship.
That's not what this says.
Except the overriding statute says that. I read somewhere it says the ADUs have to conform to the dimensional requirements.
Right.
Right, so.
But the way this
We
section in
need-
here is
we need to
worded,
say that.
it doesn't say that. It actually exempts it.
Because we can make the exemptions. We need you to put it in the bylaw.
And then there's always the issue of,
I'm agreeing with you, but right now, the way it's worded in the draft that we
Okay.
have doesn't require the ZBA to approve anything for an ADU in a non-conforming lot. It could be even more non-conforming, which is what my objection would be.
We have a lot of non-conforming.
I know, but it's the whole point of what the regulation is.
then there's the whole issue of adding to your building, single family, to create an ADU.
So we have to allow by right separate, we can't.
We're not talking about just separate ADUs, we're talking about ADUs being created in an existing structure. And we did this, when I was on the Board of Appeals, we had an issue where they were adding onto a house, and then they were able, that was back when we had the restrictions on size, and they were able to have a bigger size for the ADU because they were adding on, and some people felt that was unfair. But the point is that the ADUs, there's a variety of ways of achieving an ADU. We're all thinking of these little, because all the images of these little buildings, but it may just literally be in addition to a house that's got another door.
Ms.
Mr.
Gould
Chair.
pointed out to me the other day that my house that was built at the turn of the century and is quite large,
Mhm.
could have 8 ADUs in it.
Well, if we allowed it.
But,
Wait.
Well,
And-
that just raises a question that I've had nagging at me, and that is, we have a bylaw that says everything built before zoning, any house built before zoning, can be by special permit made into a two-family home. The question is, if you make it into a two-family home by right, and then that owner condominiumizes it, so now you have 2 separate structures.
Well, two
Can
separate
each-
ownership.
2 separate ownerships, 2 separate units.
Yeah.
Can each of them establish an ADU? So now you end up with 4 on one lot.
So what you had said is that it's related to the structure, not
To the lot.
necessarily.
That I misspoke.
Okay.
You get 1 ADU per lot.
Per lot, okay.
Now, the nuance there is that if you have a 2-family on a lot, you can have an ADU. If you have a 10-unit multifamily building, you can have an ADU.
1 ADU.
1 ADU.
For the whole
I
building.
think
For the
that,
one
I think
lot.
the draft should be very clear about that.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah.
And I don't think it is.
And is it one, quote, protected ADU? Is that what, are you using one ADU to say a protected?
You get one, yeah, protected use ADU is the language of the state regulations, and it says you get one per lot, but you get one for either a single-family dwelling or a principal dwelling. And principal dwelling is defined in the regulations as anything other than a single family. So two-family up to a 100-unit multifamily can have an ADU, but you only get one.
But
And
for
given
clarity,
which-
we could put explicitly one per lot.
Please.
Even though that is in what the state regulation is, our regulation could just reiterate that explicitly.
Well, we need to because the state, we can allow more than what the state does. We just can't allow less.
So that is, I'm more than happy to concede that we can make that clearer, but that's currently captured in the definition of protected use ADU, which says an attached or detached ADU that is located or is proposed to be located on a lot in a single-family residential zone. So the idea that you get one per lot is embedded in the definition of protected use accessory ADU.
And if it's a condominium form of ownership, and it's 4 units, and each has an exclusive use designated area, is that still one lot?
That's one lot.
So
And one thing you
It's
can
like
do-
a tax lot or whatever.
you
we
would have
use
to
for-
designate in the condo documents who gets the ADU, I guess, or.
You'd have to,
You would.
Problem.
And just to anticipate a question that, as I figure is probably coming later on, one thing you can do is prohibit the condominiumization of the principal dwelling and the ADU.
Now, can you do that? Will that stand in the?
That was one of the sort of mysteries, the open
I
questions.
always
when
wondered
When the
about this.
statute first
Yeah.
Well,
dropped, but
it-
the MLU is approving bylaws that do that.
So
So
the
how-
ADU would have to stay within the ownership of the principal dwelling?
The ADU and the principal dwelling need to remain in single ownership.
I don't understand that, because we're essentially making two-family homes. Oh, you just can't have a split, you just can't condominium the two.
The theory
Right.
behind saying you can regulate in that way, like prohibiting that, is that the ADU, fundamentally, an ADU needs to be accessory to a principal dwelling. That is true if you've got a larger principal dwelling and a 900 or 1,200 square foot ADU. They're, one's accessory to the other by just nature of the structures. That could be lost. That relationship between the two structures could be lost if they're on two lots in separate owners, or in separate ownership.
Okay, this is a question you had, about how do you tell what's the ADU and what's not? Now, what about the case where you have a small structure and you want, and say we allowed a big ADU? I mean, could you flip?
No.
Could you build a new house and then designate the existing small structure if it conformed as an ADU?
No, the ADU is capped by size, so, under state law, we are only obligated to allow an ADU up to a maximum of 900 square feet.
So the 3-bedroom ranch that was my
I
first
thought-
house in Westford was less than 1,000 square feet.
So
So,
you-
I mean, that's
Still a sizable dwelling.
yeah.
But you could keep
But
that, as the ADU and build a bigger house. for
This is my
yourself.
question.
Right,
Whether
I
you-
think that's what we're trying
No,
to drive
sorry,
through.
the definition is, an ADU is not larger than half the gross floor area of the principal dwelling, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller.
But
But I think we're flipping it
Build a
around.
new house.
I have my 3-bedroom ranch.
Yep.
And on the back half acre, I'm gonna build a 3,000 square foot house, and then call that house, the house, and then my existing 3-bedroom ranch an ADU, right? That's what scenario we're kinda talking about
So
here.
doesn't the house have to precede the ADU?
why?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Because you
Well,
can
no,
build
I
a
mean,
new-
but I
you
think
can
that's
build a
what
new
we're-
house with a new ADU.
You know, what
No,
possible reason is there to do that, to have one precede?
Where you can't.
I'd want to think about that. But
What, can you think about that one?
No,
Yes.
I mean, I think the principal dwelling has to be there first. I do think that's fair.
Right.
Because pulling that building permit for the larger house on the back of the parcel would result in, I think, 2 single-family houses on the property, which the zoning bylaw doesn't allow for.
But what if I declared it, when I pulled the building permit, that the new one is gonna be the ADU?
I don't know.
That's what I mean, I think that's, because, I saw it
Well, then you
recently
have-
in
you can't-
Bedford is the McMansioning of all the lots there, but this is a way of making a mansion and keeping the existing house and getting the best of both worlds from a builder's perspective.
And I have to get on this size restriction. The state law has a size restriction.
Yes.
Okay. Even if it's a big giant house, it still can't be more than 900.
It can never be larger than 900 square feet.
I see.
Unless
I
we
thought that
have
was one of the things
legislation.
we
Unless
could.
we say it can be bigger.
We can
Which
say
I
that
would,
for the
right
gross.
now, we say 1,200 square feet.
1,200.
I'd like to see us go back with
Okay.
the proliferation of these. I'd like us to see us go to the
Because
state minimum.
what I had understood was that we can't make it less than 9. I mean.
Right, can't make it less
You
than
can't make
900.
it less than 900.
So
You have to allow up to 900, and then you have the option of allowing more. Is that the case, or?
I mean, your proposed bylaw allows up to 1,200.
Because
It's
our
what our
Because that's what our
current-
current one says.
you can do that, you don't need to do that.
So we could go down.
We could go down
900.
to 900. Okay.
Jeff, Gwen from MAPC is here and has her hand raised.
Okay, so we're joined by, you want to introduce?
Gwen Helen Sands from MAPC. She helped us draft the original bylaw.
Helen, had you?
Thanks, Marin. Hi, I'm Gwendolyn. I just wanted to jump in and say a few things in that discussion.
Please do.
I think I'm not a lawyer, so I just want to caveat that, but I worked with the state on the regulations, and I've been working on them since then. I think that you, in my interpretation, could not build a building and then consider that to be the principal dwelling, because an ADU must be built on a lot that already has a principal dwelling unit. So to be permitted, you must have an existing principal dwelling. So in that sense, that whatever building is there by definition will be the principal dwelling and will stay the principal dwelling. And the state has been pretty clear that an ADU should always be accessory and like tertiary to that existing building. So I think that you could prevent flipping it the other way.
So what kind of language would we need to codify that?
Or we could say just.
I mean, I think that it's in the definition. If you look at the protected use ADU definition, by saying that it's on a lot in a single family residential zoning district, has a principal dwelling unit. I think if we really wanted to call that out, we could, that like you must have the principal dwelling unit and make that more specific. But technically, I think it's already there in the language. The other thing I wanted to mention was there was the discussion of some municipalities are limiting condoization. That's something that we did put into the Littleton bylaw. It's in the regulations applicable to ADUs section E, where it says ADUs shall remain accessory to a principal dwelling, and therefore both must be sited on a single lot, and the ADU must remain in common ownership with the associated principal dwelling. So that's the section where we're limiting the ADU from being sold separately. So I just wanted to note that that is in there in Littleton's.
Thank you for putting that in. Can we add language that makes it clear that you can't just buy a small house and then plop a great big house behind it and call the front one
It's
an
there.
ADU?
But that's what.
It's there now.
She's already saying that.
But do we need to make it a little bit more clear?
Well, that, or do you care to identify a permitting process that would allow that? I mean, these are the policy questions that are in front of you.
This is a Board of Appeals.
They come up at the lake area. There are small cabin-like houses down at the lake area, as you mentioned in Westford, that people have said, I have this extra land and I have a good septic system. why don't I use the cabin as my accessory dwelling for an elder relative or something and build a big house behind? I don't have any problem with that.
I do, because what happens is that accessory small cabin becomes an Airbnb. They build a big house, that Airbnb becomes a huge nuisance to the other people who are down on the lake.
But that's the issue
That's-
that Maren
I
said
went into
about
that
whether you allow
situation.
Airbnbs or not, whether you allow short-term rentals or.
Yeah, you're allowed to completely limit short-term rentals, so that's something you can consider in ADU specifically.
Real quick, going back to the policy question we're addressing around the site plan review. So if a site plan review isn't done, what happens then with the application? Is it?
Well, the same thing that happens with any new single-family home. A detailed building permit application goes through the building permit process, and it gets zoning review. He does, both the structural review and the zoning review in that process. So any setbacks that you require do get that review.
Let me just, I have another note here because it's about the 50-foot buffer zones there. Where's that get enforced if an ADU is proposed to get plopped into a 50-foot protected zone?
Conservation.
Right, this
But
does not affect any.
Yeah, but the process, you don't go to conservation for an ADU approval, you go to there and you're reviewed.
you would bring-
You would need both. You would need three. You still, to pull a building
Board of
permit,
Health.
you still need Board of Health and Conservation in order to get the building permit.
They would bring the application to us, and at that point there, we would look at the plot plan, review it. If it automatically showed that it was near any wet.
Okay. It just, you didn't, when you said, you just said you did the setbacks, you didn't talk.
Oh.
Yeah.
As long as somewhere in that process, those are done, that there's no, I don't want to build a loophole into this here, that I don't need, all the appropriate approvals that we typically require, and.
Right, so this is the zoning bylaw only. This legislation doesn't impact the authority of the Conservation Commission and the Board of Health.
So is there a way through definitions? We're having a problem with our bylaw allows reduced setbacks for accessory structures, which are usually thought of as garages and sheds, not 900 square feet structures. So, but yet we're using the accessory structure definition in this proposed bylaw. Can we separate out by definition, a shed, garage is one thing?
By size, could we say anything that's less than 100 square feet or 150 square feet doesn't, is there a way to do that? Is there a way to say that if the structure is more than, be it a shed, be it a garage, be it whatever, if it's more than X number of square feet, then it has to fit the setbacks?
Well, we'd have to do that as part of our zoning bylaw, not as
part of this bylaw.
I guess we need to identify anything else in the existing zoning bylaw that we might need to change to accommodate this.
There is another thing, and maybe you can speak to that. If you already have a non-conforming pre-existing structure, by definition, it is deficient on one side, let's say for setbacks, you are entitled to extend that line with the same setback. So you could conceivably have one that's already pre-existing with a hypothetically 5-foot setback, and throw an accessory dwelling unit on that same side at the same 5 feet without needing a variance.
Well, isn't the state of the art that you have to get a special permit to?
There's a difference, there's a split of opinion, but Littleton has followed that they have to come to the zoning board for a special permit because we like the neighbors to weigh in.
You can judge whether, So can you, in terms of setback, I think the setback issue is going to be a big issue for the town in general. Because what we are, right now we have a process where neighbors can weigh in on how adjacent structures impact them if they're asking for something.
Right, and the legislation is quite clear on what the intent is to, the legislation has taken that out of the town's hands.
What he said
I-
was,
I was just talking to a municipality this morning, and they're having similar issues of the setbacks coming into play. And just to clarify, the state does say that what should be applied to the ADU is whatever results in the most permissive regulation of any residential dwelling or accessory structure regulations in the zoning district where the ADU is. So basically whatever is the most permissive for any of your accessory structures is going to be what's applied to the ADUs. So there were some municipalities who, for example, had sheds that were an accessory structure that were allowing really small setbacks. And so what they did was they changed the definition of the shed to not be an accessory structure anymore, but in a different category. So that's like one way around this, is you could think about your accessory structures, think about what setbacks you would want for your ADUs, and if there are things that are smaller that you feel are too small setbacks for an ADU, you want to not define that as an accessory structure anymore, but make a different category, if that makes sense.
yeah, it does.
It does make sense. And then the other issue was non-conforming structures. Does the legislation require an ADU to be built within the nonconformity, or should it just be, regulated by the 10 or 15 feet?
It doesn't require an ADU to be built in the non-conforming structure, but it allows it certainly allows it to happen. So if there's a non-conforming detached garage that currently exists on a lot, and it's 2 feet from the side lot line, and someone could, in accordance with building code, build in an ADU, they can do that by right under state.
So
But what
they
about,
turn
like,
the garage into an ADU, but can they build another extension off the garage that would increase the nonconformity? That would be behind the garage, that's all 2 feet off it, so suddenly the garage goes from being a 2-car garage to a 2-car garage plus a 900 square foot building.
I'd have to think about that one.
That goes to the line there, and then is that line contiguous with the existing building, or can it be gapped? Again, think of
Well, if it's
the garage is 2 feet off the lot, and then, but I got a half acre in back, I go 2 feet off the lot all the way in the back, which,
Oh, with a big space in between.
with
So
a big
because-
space in
because you have
between,
a
but
garage
it's still the
that's
2 feet off the
all of
lot
your
line
lot
of
that
the
way.
existing
I don't see how the new
non-conformity.
structure could.
Those are the nuances, I think, that start messing this up.
I don't think that would apply. I don't think you can say that, that's not just increasing a nonconformity, that is creating a new nonconformity because it's a totally separate building.
Let the building inspector speak to that.
It becomes two structures at that point if you separate them.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would be
So
a new
the
nonconformity.
nonconformity doesn't extend to the second thing.
Although
They
But-
have to meet the setbacks at that
But
point.
see, but I'm seeing a slight difference in nodding of heads here.
But some jurisdictions say that if you have a pre-existing non-conforming setback, you're allowed to build to the same dimensional setback as existed when that structure was built. Meaning, there wasn't a 15-foot setback in 1940, 40, when the structure was built.
Yeah.
At
We
the
haven't
time it
followed
was.
that.
Many jurisdictions do, but we haven't had it come up. What we've decided is if it's more lineal distance of the same setback, we have it come to special permit and come to a hearing.
And sometimes we approve it, sometimes we ask them to reduce it.
And he's talking about a structure, a brand-new structure.
Right.
You don't think that structure has to be, you think that structure has to
That
be
structure will have to meet
conforming
the setback.
to current setbacks?
Well, if it's separate, but if they were adding the ADU to the existing structure, it seems like you could continue the nonconformity.
Well, that's a question, I think, for Mass.
My understanding is that an ADU is allowed on a non-conforming lot or on a lot with a non-conforming structure, but that doesn't mean the ADU can be non-conforming two-dimensional standards. I have an example of a bylaw where, it says the definition of the protected use ADU shall be approved by right, sort of all these qualifications, even if it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure or lot, if the following conditions are met, and then there's a list of conditions, and one of those is meeting the dimensional standards. So I think that's one way to do that. You could say, we will approve we will approve ADUs on non-conforming lots with non-conforming principal dwellings, but you still must meet the exact same dimensional standards as everyone else. In my understanding, that's legal and doable. And so if you were attaching to a non-conforming structure, for example, that had a smaller setback, the ADU could not be on the, within that setback. It would have to go somewhere else on the structure.
But they could come to the ZBA and get a variance to allow, we want people that need help to be able to get it. But
So
we just don't want people to be trying to profit wholesale by.
I think we want things that make sense.
Right.
Right, because when I was on there, there was a couple of things there, but anyway, we won't go there. So I would be in favor that we adopt some kind of language like that into our thing on it in terms of what I'd like to see in the next draft.
So let's, we have, can I get I'm gonna organize this by board comments, Board of Appeals comments, and then general public comments. Because we have an anxious person about the Patriots game. Anyway, first, Anna, do you have any comments?
I actually think that there are so many questions that we just covered that ultimately we're going to need to put this into very clear terms in a table of some kind of if this then that, because that will be helpful to the residents who want to consider this. I also do think that that picture that Maren had up earlier is really helpful so that folks can see what an ADU could be. And then my perspective is that I don't know that we need a site plan review. I think that actually adds complexity. If the whole purpose of this is to actually create more housing, then that's where I come out from that. And then we don't have a short-term rental bylaw, so we actually would need one.
Well, it would be part of this zoning.
Right, two different ways you could do it. One would be for the entire town, or if you want to prohibit it only for ADUs, you put it in here, or you do that now, and then if you so choose, you could work on a short-term rental.
Current draft contains a prohibition on short-term rentals.
And then we could choose to allow it in the future, or.
Right. If I may, I would strongly support not requiring site plan review for all residents.
No, if we can redefine garages and sheds, then that's a way around it. That would be the only, there was this parking thing, though. Why can't we require parking for an ADU?
You can require parking, you can require one parking space and only one parking space for an ADU that is more than half a mile from a transit station. You cannot require any additional parking spaces for anything within a half-mile radius of train station.
Of course, there's just fields, so. Okay, anything else, Anna? Bartlett?
Well, I'm in favor of having ADUs. I think there's a lot of stuff to work out. I think in the non-conforming garage, I think, going up above it makes sense. I don't know if that would require a special permit or not.
That is a special permit that we've granted many times. Because that's an extension of a non-conformity.
Right. It would be,
as opposed to creating a new non-conformity.
Right. So,
we've sometimes watched where the overhangs go, or if it goes out beyond, or how, we try to be cognizant of the neighbors, especially the ones that come in to talk to us.
Right. Also, when I was reading the bylaw, I had a question about the number. A lot of Littleton is 1 acre lots or smaller, but there are properties that are considerably bigger. I was thinking about the 4 acre property that I had a couple of years ago, I would really have liked to put 2 ADUs in the barn there. And could we make say for lots of a certain size, more than 4, more than 5, more than 10, something like that, we could allow more than 1 ADU. I was just putting that out there.
But there are other ways you could have done that. You could have built an ADU, you could have made the barn another unit,
Right.
because it was an antique house, you could have put 2 units in the house. There's all kinds of different.
Right.
Okay, Darryl.
So I got a sort of a tick list, I'll go through them real quick. So I like the no ADUs as short-term rentals. The non-split ownership, I think, is another key piece there. There's some clarifications to the non-conformance section that we want to have in here in terms of can't do the condo conversions, the ADUs must be conforming to all zoning and setbacks. I think we talked about going from 1,200 down to 900 square feet there. I have a note about cannot do condo conversions of the ADU. They have to remain in common ownership. I think that might be in there sort of, but it looked like it needed just a little clarification. So those were the items I ticked off from our discussion.
So just to be clear, you said the state will allow us to do that, the accessory structure would have common ownership with the principal dwelling.
That's a requirement.
Okay.
Anybody can live in either unit,
Yeah.
but they must remain in common ownership.
Okay.
And we can prevent a condo conversion of the ADU.
Yes.
And what I've heard is it does not need to be owner occupied.
Correct.
Right, yeah, that's in the state law part there. Right, so those are the things that I ticked off from things that we'd like to see prepped in the next draft for discussion there. I don't know if I caught yours or not in my list here.
Yes, I'm acknowledging that you did. Thank
Okay.
you.
Mark?
The only thing I want to make sure is that our accessory dwelling bylaw and the AD unit are the same. If we're gonna go to 1,200, they should both be 1,200.
No,
This
we're
would
replacing
replace-
This will be a full
Yeah.
replacement.
So that's the policy question.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing that you would prefer to stay at 1,200?
No, we're talking about,
No, I think.
No, I don't care if it's 900, I just want them both to be the same. I want it to
No.
be,
Okay, so this,
do away with one.
right, this would completely replace the accessory apartment bylaw.
Okay.
yeah. And in terms of the 900 versus higher, I mean, the goal of this is to create affordable housing. And with the 900, and there are a lot of single-family homes in Littleton that are between 900 and 1,000 feet, a lot of them. So it's not like we're creating Dickensian conditions with the ADUs. And the other thing, I'm just thinking about town meeting, the other thing is that the larger units you create, the more questions there are about schools and, this and that and the other thing. And on septic, 1,200 square feet can be 3 bedrooms. It would just be more difficult to build. So I don't know, I'm interested in the 900, limitation. Anyway, okay. Chair, I know, I'm gonna do the chairman,
I was gonna
and
make-
she can poll her members.
Always do me
Yeah.
last, so. How about John?
So,
Okay, come.
sure. I wonder if the simple solution to the shed close to the property line is perhaps just to simply make everything 15 feet, from the side and back. And, if someone really wants to have their shed 12 feet from the line or 10 feet from the line, just like now, if they need to have it 6 feet, they have to go get the ZBA and show a reason for why it needs to be there. In a lot of cases, the only way you get it closer than 10 feet is because there's no other place on the lot to put it. It's either rocky, hilly, wetlands, whatever. There's all kinds of reasons, and it's usually, the issues are in the lots like down near the lake where they're all little postage stamps, and so I see that seems to be it. I like the idea of not allowing short-term rentals. The idea here is not to build something so someone can make a bunch of money off vacation rentals, but to allow small units where single people or a couple only have a place that can rent at a reasonable price, and still stay in town for a lot, for a big part of what's going on. Those are my thoughts.
Right?
Yeah, I think the zoning board should still retain control of variances and special permits. But your last paragraph says that the building inspector, the commissioner, will have authority to waive zoning requirements. So I'm not kind of happy with that line.
So what does the state say? Okay.
So the state regulations list a number of specific types of things, regulations that we categorically cannot do. And then they go on to say that in addition to all the things that you absolutely cannot do, you cannot unreasonably regulate an ADU. So there may be some cases on specific lots where a regulation would be unreasonable as applied to that proposed ADU on that specific lot. So it's sort of like almost Dover Amendment type analysis where you've got to, you need to build in a little bit of flexibility for someone to make the call that a regulation is unreasonable as applied to a specific example. That, I think, under state regs is sort of best done by a building official who's going to make the call at the administrative level as opposed to by a board who's going to review it on a discretionary basis in a public hearing. But that's why it's there, is because there's this sort of catch-all provision that says we can't, in addition to all the specific things we can't do, we can't unreasonably regulate an ADU. And that will require there to be a judgment call made in some specific cases.
But we could retain that for the Board of Appeals, which is what we do now. I mean, Henry isn't able to say, okay, yeah, you can do that, that looks good. You have to go to the Board of Appeals.
I can think about that as we move
But
forward.
we require fees to go to the Board of Appeals.
Well,
I'm less worried about the application
fees
fees.
for ADUs.
And it's just all the things that need to start coming into play.
But these are asking for special, only when someone is asking for special consideration.
But the thing is, we have a very sensible building inspector right now. We have someone who errs on the side of caution and is careful not to make determinations that are arbitrary. That's not always been the case. And that may not be always the case in the future. And if there's a way to get this into the ZBA's hands, we're pretty much the board of yes, as long as you make sense. We grant right and left if we can, sometimes we say, okay, you really don't need a 36-foot wide two-car garage. We say that's only 2 feet off your neighbor's line. We sometimes ask, can you pull it back? But other than that, we're pretty reasonable. So can't we, I think you're probably talking about the case where a lot is maybe 5,000 square feet total, and there's no place to put an ADU of any kind that falls within the normal setbacks. Is that kind of case?
Yes.
Okay, so.
But by right, they can have one. So that's, so requiring them to go to the ZBA seems to conflict with.
Well, it's only for dimensional.
I think that's the point you're trying to
Deciding
make.
the decision as to whether something is allowed by right or not allowed by right is, I would say in most cases, best made by at the administrative level, by the building official, as opposed to a board who is more accustomed to making discretionary special permit type decisions and is subjecting the applicant to a public process over what is potentially a by right use in the first place.
But Cheryl's point is that Henry's our building official finds occasion to refer to the Board of Appeals now. Why wouldn't that continue?
It would.
I'm offering to think about this. This, I think, falls into the
Okay,
category
yes,
of one of the
we'd need some
things
guidance
where we
on
need to
that.
tread lightly.
And to me, the key on that section is anything that constitutes an unreasonable regulation. then only in that case would the building commissioner have the authority to waive a setback.
Unreasonable, so,
And-
Well, it's defined in the legislation.
I think you do the same thing you're doing now. If it's a continuation of a pre-existing non-conforming dimensional sideline, and it's reasonable to say yes, continue it, Henry would do that. And if it's not reasonable to say yes because the abutters are close, or because the topography is such that it's not reasonable, then he would send it to the ZBA. I don't think that would change.
Henry would do that, but we haven't always had building inspectors that feel that way.
But this is what's outlined in the regulations, in the state regulations.
The other issue, and Chris, you can, there's no like absolute right to build a 900 square foot ADU. If you have a property that can only accommodate a 450 square foot one, that's what it is, you know. Oh, really?
You're talking about septic though,
You
Chris.
can't build less than 900 square feet?
Well, you can choose to.
You can
can't tell
build,
I mean, the sites may not support a 900 square foot.
we'll have to tackle those situations as they come. But someone, if it's a residential lot and it has a single-family house on it, someone under zoning can put an ADU on that lot, period.
Somewhere.
Yeah, but 900 square feet, the ADU isn't specifically,
If septic.
if it's 893, it can't be,
If septic blocks it out, you can't build it. If wetlands block it out, you can't build it. But I would be hard pressed to describe for you a hypothetical scenario where someone couldn't put, or zoning,
An inch from the property line.
the other thing is you can, encroach on the existing building. I mean, I just don't agree with that.
they can be attached or they can be detached, and we can have no say in which of the two it is.
So we can't, attached or detached, we can't
We
regulate that.
cannot,
in-
absolutely.
No, but if an attached set has the setbacks and it can fit 900 square feet, but detaching it makes them go to Henry and say, I need, 5 feet. That's baloney that we can't say no.
As we said at the beginning, we can apply setbacks, but the property owner gets to choose which setback they want to comply with. The setback applicable to the single-family dwelling or the setback applicable to accessory structures.
Well, we're changing the definition of accessory structures.
Oh, but that's a separate.
But it's part of this effort.
It's not in this bylaw. It's in a different zoning
That would be an
regulation.
amendment to some other section of the zoning bylaw.
The thing is once I started researching ADUs, what starts scrolling across, my Facebook feed is all of these tiny house things. And some of them are pretty absurd. Personally, I view as pretty absurd, but they could all be called ADUs and dropped all over town.
Well, that's what this bylaw says you can do.
Right.
What's the difference between buying a tiny house you drop on the lot and building one from scratch?
Right, no,
Same thing.
and then some of them are
Well, but
pretty
tiny
absurd.
houses are tiny.
No,
right?
but it's the same thing, whether it's 400 feet tiny house, there, or a 900-foot ranch. They both meet the definition of an ADU.
As long as we
And,
regulate short-term rentals,
yeah.
I don't see the difference between a tiny house and a.
No, I just use that because that's what just started showing up and,
I They're, is it my turn yet?
No, Rod, you got interrupted.
No, that stimulated the discussion.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Okay, go, it's your
Polly
turn.
Pocket House.
The issues are, I'd like to, because of the proliferation that this bylaw allows, I'd like to see it limited tonight, and the fact it allows completely non-owner occupants. So we're not in a situation where, this, to me, what tugs at my heartstrings and what I want to make sure people can do is be able to build a one-bedroom ADU while their kids move into the main house and be next to their grandchildren. That's what I want to see be able to continue to do. And that's important. Or build a building for your child who has autism or something like that. To me, that these are really important issues that we need to allow. But for someone to come along and build a house and an ADU at the same time, and just use them both as rentals, then I want to be able to regulate that and protect the neighbors, especially from short-term rentals, especially on lakefront kind of situations. I had a tenant who was doing Airbnb, basically out of his shed, and it was causing a huge disruption to the neighborhood. I want to see that, if we can possibly limit that. So limiting the size, if they need bigger, they can come to ZBA, because if they can make a case where they need more than 900 square feet, we're going to give it to them. If they can make a case where, you know, am I saying this badly?
I said it.
No, the only question I would have is that we, you know, the two units have to be in common ownership.
Yes.
They don't have to be
Owner-occupant.
an owner-occupant.
Both units could be long-term
Yes,
rentals.
right.
And that would be perfectly fine.
You have to define what a long-term rental is.
Anything over 31 days, 31 days or more. We can
That-
Can we
prohibit.
make that longer if we wanted, or is that,
No.
law?
No, that's identified, that's in the regulation, the state regulations.
They have that definition.
31 days is going to keep the Airbnb down.
That's like a year.
Just to,
And I invite everyone to look at that survey, because people in general weren't that exercised about short-term rentals that responded to the survey. I was surprised.
That's because there aren't a whole lot in Littleton, so
We
they
don't
haven't
have
any
any.
experience.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily opposed to short-term rentals. The purpose of this law was to create housing. Short-term rental is not housing.
That's the other reason, yes. We're trying to increase small housing in town so that, you know, elderly singles and young kids have a place to live without having to move out to, you know, Westminster or something.
or an augmented rental income.
So Sherry, can we hear from you?
My only comment, and everybody said everything I would say, my only comment is, I think Henry will agree that we have an awful lot of situations in town where we have barn structures, and it's really neat to let somebody put that ADU inside the barn, but that's gonna be more than 900 feet we've found, right? We've talked about a couple of examples. So I would hope that the 900, if you reduce to 900, there's the opportunity for someone to seek larger.
Through the ZBA.
Through the ZBA, that's the only thing, comment I had extra.
But it would be nice if we do, and I think we end up going down that route, that if you want to do a barn conversion to ADU, it'd be nice if between the ZBA and the planning board, or I think it actually becomes a ZBA thing, is like, what are the typical things that would be allowable, right? Barn conversion to an ADU, is that something that, you know, do you have a list of things there, but you're not looking for a barn to be converted into 14 apartments?
No.
Right.
Right, you know, so that there's some information for people to know that we could say is the ZBA method is available to convert your barn. It's one of the things, you know, you sort of publish what you typically.
So if the barn is bigger, than the primary dwelling, what happens then? Can they just convert part of the barn?
I think you could say that, you could say that you could build a 900 square foot ADU in the barn,
Cheryl,
regardless
we
of.
did that already, Cheryl.
Yeah.
On King Street, where they took a barn, renovated the second floor into a ADU, and the first floor is still a barn.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted them to
Oh, okay.
answer the question.
No,
Because, I
I
mean.
just,
Yes.
sorry to jump in, I just wanted to note that if you want to allow 900 square feet by right, but you want to allow more by special permit or by zoning variance, you can do that, but then when you do that, you have to allow 2 ADUs per lot, essentially, because the 900 square foot ADU is always gonna be by right, and that's gonna be the first one allowed. And so then if you allowed someone to build the 1,200 square foot ADU, for example, by special permit, they would be allowed to come back again and build a 900 square foot ADU by right. So I just want to note that, because I think that there was interest in limiting to 1 per lot.
Cooper, 900.
See, we have drilled in on one item.
If you let someone build a 1,200 now, they can come back and build a 900 on the same lot.
Yeah.
Well,
Unless you want to allow the 1,200 by right without the zoning board review, then that's fine. You could just have one.
Okay.
But
not
some of the
a lot
barns are
that's
still pretty
1,200,
big,
but
though.
if you
It
want to do
doesn't
the
the
special
barn
review,
thing
you have to allow two.
Still.
This needs to go to next meeting.
Yeah.
So now let's open it to any other one here that wants to speak on this issue.
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, Joe Cataldo, Robinson Road. A few things I think you need to think about. You gotta think about lot ratio. I don't know if that's a consideration or not. As a person that's built small units, I really think you may want to adopt the 1,200, because if you think about it, somebody that wants to build an ADU generally has a grandchild, they possibly could be handicapped, they need bigger space. You just do the math and you take 2 bedrooms at 12 by 16, you're almost at 400 square feet right there. If they want to put a kitchen in, a little bit of an area for a living room, 900 is tight.
What about 10 by 12 bedrooms? What are these giant bedrooms?
12 by 16, I mean, it's not.
You know,
So
when you
I
get
was
into
gonna-
this, you get into judgment about.
I was
what
gonna
we
say,
need.
go drive through the Navnasset section of Westford. It is all 800 to 1,000 square foot ranches.
I'm just making a
Built in the
suggestion. It's
50s,
gonna be-
in 60s.
But you mentioned lot ratio, and which is, a lot of communities use that for their general site planning. We do not have that, and we would have to institute it over our single-family zoning. We would have to incorporate that into our single-family zoning.
I just texted my friend who's in the ZBA in Westford to see what they adopted, and they adopted up to 1,200 square feet, but he said the caveat is, if you've got a 1,200 square foot ranch or an 1,100 square foot ranch, they're not gonna let you put in a 1,200 square foot ADU, so I think some ratio factor.
okay,
Right,
so
because it
has
is
to be
half the,
consideration.
half the size of the
Our
primary
existing, did our existing bylaw have that? It had at one point, it had that, I think.
It's
It doesn't-
it's
it
in the
doesn't
sta-
currently.
It's in the state.
But, right, the state has not larger than half the gross floor area of the principal dwelling, or 1,200 square feet is in our draft. Whichever is smaller in our
But
draft.
we could do 900.
I don't wanna create more havoc, but I just think there's gotta be, if you go 1,200, the ZBA is gonna get, I'm sorry, if you go 900, the ZBA is gonna get inundated with people that wanna do 1,200. Maybe you set an upset limit of 1,200 and work based on lot size, house size, and those types of considerations. Just some ideas.
Anyone else? Mark?
So, I think the purpose of this law from the state's perspective is to create more housing. And I think by limiting it to requiring common ownership kind of defeats a lot of that purpose. Because now what you're saying is anyone that wants to build an ADU has to have enough money to build the ADU to find the rental, rather than allowing someone to effectively own the ADU separately. You're putting a lot of burden on people that are potentially lower to middle income to be able to afford this if you're trying to actually build more housing. So would be in favor of not requiring common ownership. I think you can get a better mix of people and more ADUs, which is
So,
what I think is the intent.
I think the issue, and you can weigh in, is that if you have separate ownership, then they are allowed then to build their own ADU.
No, they're not. It's one per lot.
It would remain,
How
if
do you
you
have two
allowed
owners of
separate
one lot?
ownership, it would be, it would have to be in the form of a condominium, and the condominium would own the lot that housed both.
Okay.
And different people would own each of the two exclusive use areas.
Yes.
We voted for a master plan, I voted for it, that concentrates that kind of housing and concentrates just housing growth in the common area. And we are expecting a large amount of housing. I think Mott Littleton is a model town for increasing housing in the town. So for us to limit, the reason we voted for the zoning changes that we voted for in the common was so the rest of the town could stay somewhat rural. We could maintain our farms, we could maintain our yards and maintain our neighborhoods.
While creating more housing.
While creating more housing. If we allow separate ownerships across the town, then we defeated the purpose of the master plan.
I disagree entirely. The laws, the ADU law allows people to build these. The ownership is irrelevant to whether or not you have.
I think the ownership is very relevant because it will make a huge difference to a neighborhood. I mean, someone who, I mean, I'm sorry that we aren't allowed to require owner occupancy of one of the units anymore, because rental units are different from homeowner units. They have, you know, they take different care of their properties most of the time, and you know, it's.
So the fact that you can't require owner occupancy of either side doesn't kind of defeat your argument of saying that they have to be in common ownership, right? Because they can already be rented out.
I disagree. I think that it's important that they remain in ownership. Otherwise, we might as well just be.
I disagree. I think that's a very NIMBY attitude.
I don't.
So the condo ownership is a important one. I just assumed that they would allow condo ownership. I assumed that we would be precluded from not allowing condo ownership.
I could take the counter position and make the argument that it's prohibited, condomization is prohibited even if we don't do anything in the bylaw, because it would just by default
make it
non-accessory to the principal dwelling.
Okay.
But that's
I'd like you to write something down about that, because that's a key issue.
I'm not making that argument. I'm just saying I could.
You could make that argument.
So in that, and the Attorney General has approved bylaws that prohibit condominiumization of the principal dwelling.
So
they've said they've said, you know, we're approving that, but it's an interesting question. We just can't say that that prohibition violates state law, clearly.
Because I think, from zoning point of view, what we're mainly concerned with is the physical attributes of these properties and whether they're condoed or owned or whatever, it doesn't really matter.
In no other zoning context would you regulate
Two families
that.
can be condoed, you know, all that kind of thing. It's a form of ownership, not a property characteristic. So,
Absolutely right.
I mean, I'm open to talking about that, but we'd have to get the support from.
Yeah, I think at some point, because I think what I wanted to touch on with the not pointing, you know, was the multifamily piece there. There's a multifamily aspect in the other proposal that we was gonna talk about. The informal discussion showed a multifamily house. During our walk, we see houses that clearly have two front doors for things there. We saw one that said duplex in-law apartment. So I think we have to at some point visit the multifamily thing and formalize what we really are trying to accomplish with that relative to town-wide versus the spot instances that are existing there. Because I think people will be looking for consistency in how we apply these rules and what is their right and what things that they have to do special. And I'll also bring it around to the affordable unit that they're trying to build there, brings in this question also.
What are most towns doing with this? Are they prohibiting the condo?
Most of the bylaws that I've worked on contain that prohibition.
Thank you.
And since you raised the affordable unit, which is my next door, across the street neighbor, I question whether deciding to change our bylaw to allow two-family dwellings in residential zones ought not to be brought to town meeting and not done by a 4 or 5 member board of appeals.
That's what I mean. I think at some point we should look at that whole aspect of our zoning and clarify it and bring it to a crisper point, I guess.
I agree. Are you really considering not making that.
No, I
change
just
to
said that. I didn't say we were considering it. I said we ought to be thinking about what we should do about it. Me. The board didn't say that.
Can I, since you brought up this lot, can I give you folks some history on it?
No.
Let's,
No.
but you could think about, or the proponents of this project could think about how the ADU, this revised ADU bylaw could work.
I think it would work beautifully there. There are a number of elders in this town who cannot afford to sell their house to their children, and yet can't really afford to stay where they are and need help. I mean, a Habitat for Humanity house that has an ADU with it, I could populate that 12 times over, you know, with people who fit that category where they're.
That's not the discussion I want to have tonight, though. I don't want to
Well,
go down that
and I
path.
think that, let's take advantage of our MAPC planner to weigh in to maybe comment on our discussion and what we might, where we might be going off track or whatever.
I mean, I think most of what you're saying are fair things to discuss legally, from my understanding. I think, you know, as MEPC, we're also very pro supporting housing. I think a couple people have brought up that this bylaw really is meant to support housing production and affordable housing. I think that's an interesting point about condoization making it less affordable, but I also think another, as your general counsel brought up, that it might already be in the law that you can't condoize. It is a little bit unclear from the state, but I think, you know, personally, we would encourage, just like as NAPC, we encourage making it more allowable than the state already does. So like allowing up to 1,200 square feet, we think is generally good. I also kind of like the idea of maybe you allow more than one ADU on larger lots, especially if that's something you have. And again, that the second ADU has to be by special permit anyways, so you have more review of a second ADU. I think that's an interesting idea. Yeah, those are sort of my thoughts. If you have specific questions, happy to answer them.
I think we need town council to weigh in on this condo thing, on the condo issue.
I have nothing.
You, in your experience, it's not a typical thing. I would question, I think, Mark, your point was that allowing condoization would actually make it more affordable for this housing to be created.
Right.
Because the people who are investing in it can then sell it and recoup their money and, you know, whatever, rather than renting it. Anyway, so we've had a good discussion. And we're gonna have to wrestle with it. We also have to think about what our town constituents want. We should start talking among ourselves. The size is a big issue. But in general, you know, and I think, I'm glad the Board of Appeals was here tonight, because you were the ones who were dealing with these weirdo lots that are non-conforming and different, you know, situations. And, you know, I was on it for a dozen years, and you are the trained to be the Board of Yes, but.
We miss you.
Well, I do not miss writing legal decisions.
I mean,
I mean, that was, but anyway, so what is, you showed us what the timeline was.
So we'll take a look at the agendas for January and February and see where it makes most sense to pencil this in. I'm
So
hoping January.
the process is we will eventually wrestle with this for the bylaw, and up until the time of of issuing that and having a hearing, which will be in March, any one of you can weigh in, you know, through the planning board. There's going to be a new planning board email address that will go, a single address for all of us, but it will go to Martin and Cooper, and they'll distribute if you have any comments. Chris, it's just like cannabis. It's just like a gold mine for you attorneys. I mean, just say yes.
Yes and no, but yes, but you know, every town is adopting a new bylaw to address this. But you know, there's, as I think I tried to say at the outset, we're so confined in what we can do.
Sure.
The bylaws tend to be.
And we're trying to, number one, identify what we can weigh in on, and number two, identify any other parts of our bylaw we might need to change to support, you know, this effort. Yep. Okay. With that, can I have a motion to close this meeting? This was not a hearing, right?
Right, this was not a hearing, and you have one more agenda
Oh,
item.
we do. What is it?
Mr. Chair, and Gwen is still on, if you want to, thank you.
Okay. Oh, yes, and thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
It's 79, that's why it's so hot.
Oh, 359 King, I forgot. Okay, let's do it. Attorney Gold, would you like to have an informal discussion about?
And in case anybody needs a little sugar at this hour, we'll try to make it quick though. Let me introduce you, and do you have these on an overhead? The plans, yeah. So I'm here on behalf of Dwight Long, and he's the owner of 359 King Street. If you recall, that was Rich Crowley's address with the bunny barn, and it's a long, narrow, relatively narrow lot that goes back with a great deal of pasture area and backlands. And Dwight Long's bride is afflicted with MS, and they're looking to have a property that they can be on one floor and she can get in and out with a wheelchair. And he has a brother and a brother's daughter and family, and they want to kind of make this into a family compound. The daughter has, the niece, Dwight's niece, has some horse involvement and would like to have this for sort of a pasture area and keep it as farmland. The interesting thing is that much of the backland abuts the Morgan property. And while it's not easily accessible from one to the other, it is a beautiful open space that would be maintained with this proposal. So I'm going to turn it over to the engineer, who is Sean from OCG. And he's going to walk you through the plan.
Sure, thanks. For the record, I'm Sean Malone from Oak Consulting Group. I'm a professional civil engineer in Massachusetts. And I have actually done some work in town here. I remember some of the
name was familiar and your face is familiar. What project were you?
Northern Bank.
Oh, that's okay.
Just quick overview. You may or may not be familiar with the property. It's about 6.5 acres. It's the development of the site is predominantly on the northern side along King Street. It's developed with a single-family residence and then a second structure, large, how would you classify that? Kind of a existing barn, newish barn type building.
The bunny barn, we call it.
And then there's a small stable with a room up above that as well. The site also has a drainage channel cutting through the middle of it, and you can see just on that plan, just on the right-hand side. And what that is, that's taking stormwater runoff from King Street as well as, I believe it's Edsel Drive to the west. And that water comes onto the site and flows down and basically bisects the site and then discharges to the wetlands to the south. So the area to the south of that, or southwest, page right, that's all just open land, basically pasture, and some wetlands on the edge. So the plan is to leave that completely untouched, about 4 acres or so, 3.5 acres, and that would be put into a conservation restriction. On the front side of the site, we want to take the Existing house that fronts on King Street, convert that into a two-family, convert the barn structure next to Dwight's property into a single-family residence, and then construct 2 other single-family residents on the property. So there would be a total of 5 single-family residents. This would be proposed under the, I believe it's open space conservation bylaw. Is that the name of the bylaw? And we would have an access come in approximately where the existing drive comes in, just to the west of the existing house. Create a cul-de-sac, have a 22-foot wide drive, which I think is your requirement for a lane. Have a cul-de-sac that's suitable for turning fire department vehicles, and then with that it would also be Amazon and so forth. And have the parking for the structures come off of that cul-de-sac. We'd have 2 parking spaces minimum for each structure. We're probably looking at having a shared parking of 6 spaces for the converted buildings. And that would be over in between the 2 buildings. We'd have an all-new septic system designed for this. And then also stormwater management, so as meet all the current regulations. A portion of this development, kind of towards the back, will be within the 100-foot buffer to those wetlands. That drainage ditch is classified as a wetland.
It's not a rivers?
Not a river, no, just bordering vegetated wetlands. So we have the 100-foot setback, so we will have a conservation component with this as well. And that pretty much sums up what we're trying to do here. Did you want to add anything?
Only that, I currently live next door, so I live at 363, which is that top left-hand corner. So I would just be moving next door. And then I would be selling my house, but once if we can get this done.
Cooper, this plan will show the large area of backland that would be left available.
And you also had submitted a proof plan showing, 5 units.
Yeah, so this is the example that shows that hatched area in the back. That would all be put into a conservation restriction. So it could never be developed for anything like this in the future.
I went to the GIS to look at how it fit into the Morgan land, and it's really nice. Yeah.
And then if you just flip to the proof plan, just to show that potential is there to get 5 lots conventionally with a full subdivision road, but they want to keep the back.
Yeah, so what we did here is we basically put a conventional subdivision on here. This meets all of your zoning requirements. I believe it's about a 600-foot long cul-de-sac. So, we could build a 5-lot subdivision meeting all the rules and regs on this lot. But as Dwight was saying, he'd rather do the other thing.
I just had one aside. What is that little who owns that little triangular piece that's to the?
I don't know.
It's shown on the town map as a separate parcel.
There's,
and it's
this one here, just to the west of you, right beside you. Talking about this one here.
Oh, that's, right, that's a Badger who owns that one. That's the, not Badger Funeral Home. Badger Funeral Home is left of that, but it's a rental right now. It's a 2-family rental.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
It didn't look like it was sort of buildable. Is that little 2-family?
They have a decent backyard. I mean,
yeah.
And when I was there, everything on the northerly lot line would be the back of the houses on Edsel.
Right.
So it just seemed to me it would leave them undisturbed with what they are used to seeing, which
Definitely.
is large open pasture land.
For anyone who's watching this, people might be familiar with the property with the previous tenant.
Yeah.
Farm 359. Because a lot of us went to the trucks and wandered the. So you know, I think that those of us who are familiar with it are very excited that it could potentially be open land, you know.
Well,
or
that's,
conserved.
I mean, I think I've done a good job at 363 for anybody who's been here for for 40 years, has seen
Well,
everything.
and I was gonna say, for those of us who've been in the Board of Appeals, you went through a process for the wall in the back when you
Yeah.
built your pool.
Yeah, and that, I think we did a good job there. It's a beautiful wall, and
Yeah,
I think
it is
it's
really
a,
beautiful.
it's set, yeah, it was expensive. But I think it's like a nice gateway to Littleton Center, and I think those, and to be able to keep Richie's house that old, and I want to maintain, you know, the exact same look from the road, you know, going down King Street.
So since this is just this is what I want to do, I'm going to open it to the board, and you want to start with Hannah?
So this is a proposal for the open space development bylaw. I thought we had to have a minimum of 10 acres to consider that.
I think it was that if there's 10 acres, you must present it as an open space. I don't think it says you need a minimum of 10. I could be wrong. That's what I thought.
No, let me take a look.
Bartlett?
I like the idea of keeping the back of that lot open space. I think the first drawing that was up makes sense. I mean, given that there's going to be development.
Darryl?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I think, you know, moving the development towards the front against the road is better than making it go all the way out in the back. Just one question, why not a more straightforward shared driveway instead of a lollipop? And maybe you can recover a bunch of land that might be better used.
A couple things. I mean, we're going to be serving 5 units on there. I think fire department would probably want easy access, so we'd want something that they can kind of circulate. Secondly, again, with the 5 units, Amazon, things like that, we just think it would be kind of a better.
Not that picture.
The other one?
The other picture only shows 2 houses off of the lollipop.
There are
Right.
5 residential units.
Yeah, all of the units would come off of that lollipop.
There's 3 existing units.
Oh, see, that's what I can't
Yeah.
find them in these drawings. It's
It's
just,
the second drawing on the list. Yeah.
Way up at the top is
Yeah, there's one right here.
existing house. Can you point to it?
This is the Bunny Barn right there, and this is the house that.
yeah, it would have been nice if maybe those were shaded so that you
Yeah.
could find them on the drawing.
I just wanted to get before you.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize that there was other units along inside of that, because as I'm looking for, you know, trying to find it in the drawing here.
So the
We are
shaded part
informal.
is going to get sold off?
This is,
The colored one, that's a
yeah,
little
this-
bit better.
this one,
Yeah,
I
that,
think describes,
that would be
so
better.
These are the existing buildings, these are the 2 new ones. And so
Okay.
this would be the shared
Okay, so
parking.
you're servicing them all off of the lollipop here?
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
I couldn't get that from the drawing that was there. I
And-
thought you was only servicing those 2.
I think another advantage.
And
of keeping
this is where he lives now, and that's going to get
the
sold?
existing house.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
And you will be,
No,
You're good?
you might want to
No, I don't care
touch base with the
about that.
historic.
So right
We
now.
already have,
Okay, good.
and the state,
Yeah.
and the town. yeah.
Because it's a listed property and, yeah.
So just to confirm, so it's 5 new units on top of the existing house that's going to be,
No,
Two
so
units.
it's an existing house right now, so that 1 unit is gonna be converted to 2.
2, yeah?
Then the barn structure is gonna be converted to a single family, so a total of 3.
Okay.
And then 2 new single-family buildings, so.
Okay, so it's 2 new.
The 2 orange ones
Yeah,
there.
so
Okay.
new units on the site would be 4 total, that aren't residents right now. If that
What
makes
you're
sense.
sort of confusing.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
No,
confusing.
confusing me. All right.
2
So
structures.
2 new
two-
buildings.
Just leave it at,
Two
just
new
leave it at your,
buildings.
yeah.
Yeah.
2 orange ones are
2
new
new
buildings.
units.
The
Yep.
existing
Yeah.
buildings are gonna be reconfigured
But-
somehow.
Exactly.
Maybe do some graphic, you know,
To make it really crystal clear.
and I'm assuming that the house that you're gonna build where the barn is maybe, is gonna be in a bigger footprint, or?
No, I think that they're all gonna be relatively I mean, like 20, less than 3,000 square feet. They're not gonna be, it's gonna be nice from, you know,
And then
good
where-
curb
where
appeal
your
when you
ADUs.
drive by. When you look back there, it looks nice now, I want it to still
Yeah,
look
were you
nice.
listening to the, as Gerald says, were you listening to the ADU discussion? You know, there's all kinds of different ways of slicing things
yeah.
out. Mark?
And you said,
I think, I think Anna's right about the 10 acres, but I don't think that's a real issue here. I think,
No, I stand corrected. Sherry is correct.
I think that adding the 2 units to the 3 that are already there, there's already a structure there that's gonna be renovated from a bunny barn or whatever the thing is, and so a house is fine, the two units is fine. The open space that you're getting in the back, I would rather see the smaller lot, the small little cul-de-sac coming right up the road. And I do think you need to have something of that size. You can't do a shared driveway, especially with 5 units coming off of it, but I think it works good for that.
Well, and if you landscape it nicely,
Yeah.
it could be a sort of center of focus for the little community.
Yeah, my comment was because I didn't realize that there was other buildings in the drawing.
I think it makes sense for that, especially with the open space in the back.
So the next question that would come up, and I'm curious more than how it would influence, you know, my feeling about it, but would this be a condominium form of ownership with exclusive use areas, or are you going to?
That's what I was thinking.
Because you can't really subdivide legally.
Yeah, that's what, I want to be able to take my wife to Florida in the winter and just have somebody else.
Well, when I
take
say
care of everything.
condominium, I mean, I'm saying the form of ownership where there would be a single parcel with exclusive use areas for each of these.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yeah.
can speak to it. So I've been working with Dwight for the last 18 months trying to plan this, and the plan is to take the present well, it is also the barn right now, the old Crowley property, renovate that. The barn itself is not habitable and has to be taken down. Very similar to what we did on Robinson Road, renovation like that style. Making 2 units there that are relatively moderately priced. We don't have a price point at this point in time. Those 2 orange units would be using a kind of a model of a ranch style so that Dwight's wife, Mary Lou, can navigate the house. And then obviously the benefit of the vista in the back is so that the basement, he can finish that as he chooses, or develop the back with a nice deck so he can overlook that. He's very, very passionate about his property. He's called it, was it Bluebird Farm, Dwight?
Bluebird Ranch.
Bluebird Ranch. So he wants to really invite a lot of different wildlife there and so forth, trying to grow native plants that are good for all kinds of wildlife. So it's, I think it's going to be a really exciting piece of property, and certainly will look beautiful when it's all done.
Thank you.
Well, Joe, you have credibility working with antique structures.
Thank you. The passion, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Grumble, grumble. Anyway, so have you gotten out of this meeting what you?
Yeah, I mean, I've already spent a lot of money, and I'm just, if the positive feedback is good, then we'll just keep going, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Okay.
wanted to be sure we're going
Yeah.
with an open space plan in the right direction, and the board is all in favor of preserving that backland the way Dwight wants to.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time very much.
Now.
Now you can watch the past.
It's too late now.
Now,
It's all
when
killing.
can I hear a motion? Okay, can I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, flip the switch.